It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Yo, how are you guys doing this evening? Hopefully you guys are doing better than ever, right? No, it seems like things are slowly getting back to normal as far as the virus is concerned. So, that's kind of inching back towards being normal. Unfortunately, we still have all this craziness going on with the protests and different things like that. And I'm not saying I'm on either side. I understand and see the viewpoints of both sides. I absolutely do not condone or understand violence as a form of protest. But as far as protesting and human rights and things like that, I totally, agree with. But I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but I feel like I need to say it. So my name is Chris. I know we have a lot of new people here today because we have had a lot of new people coming to the channel, a big influx of new subscribers. So I can only imagine we're going to have new people in the stream. So as usual, I'm going to kind of start this stream off with a little bit of a introduction. My name is Chris, and I'm an HVACR service tech here in Southern California. I started working in the trade when I was a little kid, working for my father, and it kind of went from there. I worked, I can remember elementary school, junior high school, going to work with him, sitting on his bucket. Junior high school was about the time that I really started to understand everything about this trade. Well, kind of, actually started doing preventative maintenances, changing filters, things like that. When I was a little kid in elementary school, all I did was sit on his bucket and hold his flashlight, and I didn't even do a very good job at that. I was very much distracted by everything in the restaurant. But, after high school, I did a brief stint for a year in high school and a year after working for a body shop working on cars. And then I decided to come work for my dad full-time, went to work for his company, and we've since partnered together, and we run the show together now. I have only ever worked in commercial refrigeration, light commercial refrigeration. I've done restaurant work my entire career, so refrigeration, air conditioning, ice machines, exhaust fans, that kind of stuff. I've never worked on hot site equipment, so I really don't have experience with that. Not really something I'm ever really interested in getting into. And I've never done residential other than helping out family members and friends. So, yeah, that's me. That's my story. I started making these videos as a form of training for my own employees. It was just kind of like a little thing where I found myself recapping service calls when we were in the shop in the morning. And I was like, you know what? One of these times I'm going to make a video out of it. So I made a video, and the first 2 videos on my YouTube channel, if you go all the way back to the beginning, I believe one of them's a beer walk, and I don't remember what the second one was. But the first 2 videos were never meant to be public. And if you rewatch those, you'll probably kind of get the sentiment, because I'm very direct. Like, this is how we do it. This is why we do it. That's the whole point of my channel. It was never started to become this thing that it turned into. It was really just to be for my own employees. And in a weird way, I still make these videos for my employees. I'm a very peculiar person. I know that for a fact. I'm sure you guys can recognize it. I have some OCD tendencies, and I have some interesting craziness in my head. People ask me all the time, you know, how can I make these videos and work at the same time? How can I pay attention to filming while I'm, you know, doing a service for the customer? Well, one of my employees was actually just working with me last week. We were doing a job, and actually he was working next to me. He was not working with me. I was working on a refrigerator, and he was doing some coil prep. And he kept asking me, what? And I kept saying, I'm not talking to you. And then he'd say, what? Because when I work, I talk to myself. I genuinely do. The way that I troubleshoot is I verbalize. I talk to myself. Okay, I did this, I did that. And I kind of like go through the checklist while I'm talking to myself. So it really is no different turning on a camera, because I do the exact same thing with the camera on. I just hold it up every few minutes, you know. I film everything on my phone, so I just hold the camera up for a few minutes, talk, just like you guys hear in my videos, then I set it down and I finish working. So, you know, I've always been that peculiar person that troubleshoots that way, okay? I definitely, and I have this on my list right here, and I definitely want to cover it too. You know, I'm real, I'm human, and I make mistakes. I try to learn from those mistakes, but I get quite a few comments, and I do read, or I make an attempt to read every single comment on my channel. If you notice that every comment that you guys leave on the YouTube channel, there'll typically be a thumbs up and a heart. That's my way of acknowledging that I read that comment. I may not answer every single one, because hundreds and hundreds of comments come through, if not thousands a week. So it's difficult to keep track of it. But, you know, I get a lot of comments on, you know, why do I do it this way? Or why don't I do this? Or why did I put my personal opinion in that? Why did I say that I was pissed off at the customer or whatever? Okay, you guys have to understand something. I am a human, right? I'm not some machine that just cranks out these videos. Plus, I have to make it 100% clear. I've made it clear to everybody that I work with, as far as partners and sponsors and different things, is I do this my way, okay? The intention is not, I don't do this to make money. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that I don't make revenue from the YouTube AdSense, because I do, okay? But in no way does that change the way that I film my videos. I will never bow down to anybody. I will only choose sponsors and work with sponsors that are okay with the way that I am, okay? I do things my way. And I don't mean to sound like a dick, pardon my French, okay? But if you have a problem with that, unsubscribe. It's all good. No offense. I don't take it. I'm not offended by it, but I do things my way. Okay. Why did I get mad at I verbalized that I was angry that I don't get paid enough to do this. I was being human. I was being real. Okay. I'm addressing things that I've said in videos that people make comments about. Another thing too, you guys don't have to worry about it. The comments, they don't eat me alive. Okay. I just happen to read them. And when I read them enough, then I just tend to address them. Okay. The whole purpose of these live streams, the reason why I do these live streams, is to give myself some sanity, because when I first started this channel, I became obsessed with the numbers. I became obsessed with the YouTube analytics, subscribers and views and comments and all this different stuff. And I found myself ignoring my family, okay? Because I have a family. I have a wife and 2 daughters. And I found myself, we'd be out to dinner, and I'd be staring at my phone, answering comments. And I mean, there's still, in a way, I still do that a little bit, but not as bad as when it first started, okay? Luckily, I noticed it before my wife said something to me. Now, she already noticed it, but she really wasn't addressing it, because she knew that I was starting something new. And I am passionate about this channel. I have a lot of fun doing this, okay? But you know, the whole point of these live streams was to consolidate the questions and answer them in a live format. So that way I don't have to type it out. Another thing, I genuinely despise text messaging and typing things out on my phone. I would rather have a phone call with someone or a video chat or something like that. I'm not saying with people that want to send me messages on emails and stuff like that. I don't mind that, but I'm just saying in general, I'm not a fan of typing things out. So I'd rather look at the questions, consolidate them on a list, and then talk about them in here. That's the whole point of these live streams, okay? So now that I've gotten past that and made myself sound like a big time dick, it is what it is, right? We're going to go ahead and get on with the stream, okay? I really appreciate you guys coming in here. If you guys have questions, do me a favor, put them in caps lock, okay? I'll try to get to them. As you guys can see, I've been staring at the camera this entire first, I don't know, 3-4 minutes that I've been recording right now, and I really wasn't, 11 minutes actually, or whatever it is, I wasn't really paying attention to the chat, okay? It's okay. If you guys already posted a question, repost it, all right? Myself or one of the moderators will tell you that I'm not going to answer it, but if I don't say that, then just keep posting it and I'll address it, okay? If I fail to answer one of your questions, do me a favor and send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com, okay? So we're going to get on with this. I'm going to take a look at the chat real quick. Multiple offender, you said hot side work is shockingly profitable if combined with cold side, but refrigeration is still king. And so I will address that. The whole thing with hot side work, here's the thing. It's hard enough to find a technician that I can train to do things the way that I like to do things. And I fully admit that I have a very peculiar way. I am very thorough, very methodical in the way that we do things. So to find a technician that can do that kind of work, refrigeration, let alone the hot side work, I'd rather not have to deal with that. I prefer to just stick to the refrigeration and air conditioning because, knock on wood, not always, and I'm not some crazy person, but for the most part, I can walk my technicians through most of the service calls if they're having a hard time. I have really good techs and I usually don't have to, but every once in a while they run into a struggle and I can kind of walk them through everything over the phone. Now, I am not a hot side technician. I know that I could figure it out, but it's just a matter of having to train other technicians to do that kind of work too. It just gets a little bit tricky. So we just kind of stick to the cold side. And what's interesting too is here in Southern California, that's a normal. It's normal to have an air conditioning and refrigeration company versus I know you can go to places in the Midwest, you can go to Texas and places like that where you have a refrigeration technician and you have an air conditioning technician and you have a hot side technician. They're all three different people. But here in Southern California, it's very common. Most refrigeration companies also do air conditioning, but they don't do hot side for the most part. Now, there's a few guys out there, companies that have kind of done all three, but it's pretty common just to have an air conditioning and refrigeration company. So when do I plan on retiring? Well, I'm 37 right now, or I'm going to be 37 next week. I don't think I'll retire anytime soon. I'm not financially ready to retire, but it'll be a long time, in my 50s or 60s for sure. Yeah, but you know, that's what it is. I love doing this. I really do. Like, even when I get stressed out, when I'm having the worst day, usually it's because I'm sitting in the office dealing with office stuff. Office work is the worst. Just drives me nuts. To calm down and to relax, it's best if I just go to work. If I can go to work and fix things and troubleshoot things, I'm in my happy place. I love fixing things. I love doing service calls. That's my passion. Running the business is not my passion. It's annoying as all get up. So nearly reckless to science. Thank you so much for becoming a channel supporter. That is flipping awesome, dude. That is an awesome. Thank you so very much, man. And Joe, HVACR North, I saw that you became a supporter again. Thank you so very much too. Okay. I really appreciate it. Let me see. Marvin Thamer, your mini split is making a rattling noise when it starts. Why? You know, there could be so many different things. I will say that most mini split units out there are relatively inexpensive units, so I wouldn't expect them to be the quietest things in the world, but it could be a bunch of different things. It could be things out of balance. It's hard to say. You'd really have to be there to be able to solve that problem for you. So let me text my wife real quick. My cat is standing outside my door meowing, and it's driving me nuts right now. Hold on. Annoying. Seriously, I had to text my wife to tell her to come, or to ask her to come get the cat, please, because the cat is standing outside my door, driving me nuts. Anyways, probably doesn't like the fact that the door is shut. All right, let me see what else. Thank you very much. Let me see. How many calls do I get a day or a week? Well, pre-COVID, before COVID, we were getting about 6 to 7 service calls as a company. We're not a big company. We're only 4 trucks. So 6 to 7 service calls a day is what we were getting. Now, we weren't necessarily getting 6 to 7 done a day, but you know, some days we would get more than that done, some days you get less. But right now, on average, we're getting about 3 to 4 service calls a day is what our company is getting. We're slowly picking up. The restaurants still aren't spending a ton of money, but they're fixing things now. So while the whole COVID thing was going down, when the restaurants were locked down, they weren't spending any money, and they had just like, you know, 3 to 4 refrigerators at every restaurant, air conditioners not working. They've been calling us in for the refrigerators at the restaurants. Now, I went to a restaurant today where I was just cleaning things and just doing normal routine maintenance. And I noticed that they had 2 air conditioners down. They still haven't approved to fix those because we haven't been like extremely hot yet. We've been about 85, 90 degrees lately. So once we hit 100, we'll get a bunch of air conditioning calls. The restaurants are still just trying to ease into this because they just opened 2 weeks ago for in dining room seating kind of stuff. So they're still trying to, you know, make up for some of their losses. Some of these restaurant chains that I was talking to, some of the bigger ones, they were losing upwards of $10 million a month. $10 million a month is what these restaurant chains, some of them, were losing just by doing to-go, because they were operating at a loss by doing to-go. But some of these national chains, you know, some of them have 400 restaurants, some of them have 800, some of them have 1,200 restaurants across the United States. So, you know, they were trying to keep their doors open for the most part, but some of them closed, some of them temporarily. But yeah, these guys, they've been taking some serious losses, so they've got to recoup some of those costs for sure. All right, let's see what else we got. Why haven't I used the SC680? I've just been running with the SC480. No reason why I'm not using the 680. The 480, I really like the field piece meters, but the 480 actually has the phase rotation in it. The only thing that the 480, in my opinion, is missing is a swivel on the clamp. That's pretty much it. A swivel, and it doesn't have the storage for the leads that the 680 does. The 680 is a much bigger meter, and I do love the 680 too, but the biggest reason why I had the 680 in my bag is because it had the phase rotation, and I was using that all the time. But since I got the 480, I've just been kind of working with that one. But eventually I'll throw the 680 back in my bag and start using that again too. So we're talking about the Field Piece SC 680 and 480 meters. Those are their newest flagship meters that they have. Both great meters. Yeah, the 680 is huge, but I do like it. It is awesome. The 480 is a little bit difficult because the leads don't tuck into the back of the meter, but yeah, it is what it is. Can't always be perfect, right? Do I use chemistry in my job field? Yes, indirectly I use chemistry every single day. So refrigerant is chemistry at its best. Okay, a refrigerant is a gas that can be changed from a liquid to a vapor state in an enclosed system. Well, it doesn't even have to be enclosed technically, but in a system. Okay, so that's chemistry right there. Now, do I do complex chemistry calculations every day? I wouldn't go that far. Okay, I understand some principles of the chemistry of refrigerant, but all of us HVACR service techs do use chemistry in a way. Ironically, one of the really interesting things, when I was in high school, I can just remember being in algebra class and being in geometry. Actually, I don't think I even finished geometry, to be honest with you. I didn't do too well in high school. I graduated, but it wasn't my strongest suit. But I can remember being in algebra thinking, I'm never going to use this stuff ever in my life. This is dumb. But here I am doing these crazy complex mathematical calculations. What are complex? And I can do them in my head a lot of times, doing all kinds of things, So this trade, we use all sorts of that stuff that you thought you'd never use, okay? You use mathematical calculations. You work with, science. Science is a big part of our trade. There's a lot of things that I would do differently if I could go back to high school. If I could go back to high school. See, what's interesting is now that I'm out of high school, one of my favorite just a side thing. Like, I am so interested in history now, but I could care less about that in high school. That was the most boring subject in the world. But as an adult now, history is so interesting. It's fascinating to look at the psyche of people and why they did the things that they did, or at least, as best as we can tell. There's definitely some things I would change if I could go back to high school. I would never want to change anything about my family. Nothing about my family. But as far as, studying and different things like that. And I probably would have finished and gotten like an AA or something like that at community college. Finish that probably because there's a large gap of time from high school to about 28 where I don't really think I was very productive in life other than having children and getting married. I guess that's very productive. But I mean, it just seems like there was just kind of like a gray area where we were just coasting, and we weren't really like striving to be better. And I wish we would have finished, or I would have finished school because not because I feel like a degree would have changed me, but I'm so interested. I'd love to kind of go back. It'd be kind of neat to go back to school and get some sort of a degree. But anyways, as usual, guys, if you can't tell, I go off on these tangents all the time and just kind of get lost in the things that I talk about. So HVACR Vlogger says, right now, San Francisco is so depressing with all the stores closing and completely ruined. Yeah, I hear you on that one, bud. I mean, the area that I live in, HVACR Vloggers or Ernesto, he lives up in San Francisco, or in the Bay Area, just outside of the Bay Area, I think is where you live, but he commutes and works in the Bay Area all the time. And Ernesto also has a YouTube channel. You guys should check that out for sure. But, it's not as crazy as it was for you guys up there. Down here, I mean, in certain parts of the LA area, we had a lot of rioting and stuff, but for the most part, in the area that I live in, the suburbs of LA, I'm about 70 miles outside of LA. It's pretty calm, pretty mellow here. I mean, we had some protests, and some of the protests got a little bit crazy with it wasn't so much the protesters. The protesters weren't the violent ones. You had some outside people coming in just causing violence. That's my belief. It's just outside people just coming in to capitalize on a horrible situation. But they kind of messed it up for the protesters, I think, for the most part. But anyways, let's get back to this. Why do I put most of my titles in caps lock? Just to grab people's attention. I think it's doing its job because you're asking me why I put them in caps lock. So, I mean, it's honestly doing it. The thumbnails and the titles, I usually put them in caps lock so that people can read them better. And then, yeah, so... all right. So great question. So when can we buy the hats? So I've got hats and shirts back here. The website's taken a little bit longer, but I'm still working on that. So we'll have that up hopefully soon, and we'll have a way for people to buy the shirts and the hats. So that'll be coming hopefully sooner than later. All right. I'm going to get to my list of things to talk about here. So the last two videos that I had, the first one was the walk-in freezer is too warm. And it was our first heat wave. It was actually all the way back in April when I filmed that one. And we had a 100-degree heat wave in the beginning of April. And we had a service call on a walk-in freezer. It wasn't too difficult. It was actually a rather easy service call. When I got up there on the roof, I went through some troubleshooting steps, found that the high pressure control was tripped. Once I reset the high pressure control, I found that we had a bad condenser fan motor. So I went ahead and changed the condenser fan motor. We keep those in our truck, and was able to get the system back up and running. It really wasn't too difficult. But again, even the simplest of calls, I'm going into them with an open mind. I'm looking at everything. I'm listening. Very, very important, guys. I do not wear headphones when I'm on the job because I can also go up onto the roof and I can listen and I could say, hey, there's a motor going out on that AC, or hey, that exhaust fan doesn't sound right. And then that's a potential selling opportunity because I get to go down to the customer and say, hey, walk-in freezer's got this issue, but while I'm up there, I noticed that this thing's making a funky noise. Would you like me to look into it? So very important. I don't wear headphones when I'm on the job. Now, it's one thing if you work in an environment, mechanical rooms, different things like that, where you have to wear them for hearing protection. That's one thing, okay? But when you're on a roof and, you don't need, earplugs or anything like that for hearing protection, I highly frown against people wearing headphones when they're on the roof, because how can you do a big picture diagnosis if you're not looking at the big picture? If you're listening to music in your head, you're paying attention to the lyrics, you're doing your stuff, you're just coasting through your day. Okay, that's my opinion on that one. All right, let me look at the chat and see what else. How how do you run an inverter compressor without a driver board? You don't really. I mean, I don't know how to tell you how to do that. If it's an inverter driven compressor, I don't know. It's not as simple, I don't think, as a like an inverter driven motor, like a VFD. Where I can just bypass the VFD. I don't know though, so I'm not gonna comment on that. So I would lean on the manufacturer for that one for sure. So, let me see what else we got here. In my videos, I show a lot of integrity. Have I always had integrity as a technician, Polly? Yeah. So, my father was and still is the greatest influence on my HVAC career. Okay, I watched my father. Now, I've said this many times, and I will say this again. My father was an old school service technician. When I say was, my dad's still alive. He's still around. He still works with me, but he just doesn't work as much. So that's why I said was an old school service technician. Okay, my dad comes out and helps me every once in a while, but that's it. He really doesn't turn wrenches much anymore. So he was an old school service technician. He was beer can cold, guys. Beer can cold. And, I was taught, I can tell you right now that I was taught to charge an air conditioner. I've said this many times. Most of the air conditioners we were working on was fixed orifice R22 package units. Okay. And coming up, I can remember thinking, how do you know how to charge that system? And I was taught by my dad and by my senior service technician that I worked with, that you had a set pressure that your system was going to run when it was operating properly. So basically, I was taught to charge an R22 package unit to 275 head pressure and 65 to 70 suction pressure. So if I had a 275 head pressure, I should have a 65 to 70 suction pressure coming back. I can remember those numbers so vividly in my head. Now, there's so many variables in that, and there's so many things about that was wrong, but at the same time, to give him credit, things were different back then. Equipment was very forgiving. We're dealing with like 8-SEER equipment. Okay. So, I learned almost everything from him. Where did I learn my integrity? I learned it from my dad, because even back then I can remember my dad, and I think I said this recently, I can remember him writing up an invoice, and I'm looking at the service call that we must have changed contactors and transformer and all these different parts. But then he found what the problem was on, maybe the last part or something like that. But then when he would write up the invoice, he would only bill for that last part that fixed the problem. And I remember asking him, like, why didn't you bill for all those parts? And he said, because I didn't know what was going on. And I only think it's fair to bill the customer for what actually fixed the problem. Okay. My dad did an amazing job, and I learned so much from my dad, okay? I'm not taking away from any of his mechanical skills. He's a great mechanic. He gave me the mindset that I have, okay? Now, of course, every generation is going to build on the previous generation's triumphs, right? So my dad was a great mechanic. He was a great technician, but I built on that. There was things that I watched and I said, I don't like that. I can remember asking, hey, why does this work? Well, just because that's the way it does. See, that wasn't enough for me. And I didn't take offense to it. I wasn't a punk. I wasn't rude. I just went home and opened up a book. I went to school and opened up the book. And I thought, if something in my head rang like it was a little bit, that doesn't sound right. I wasn't rude. Even if I figured out that it wasn't right, I wasn't rude. The next time I went to go do it, I fixed it. And then guess what? We wouldn't have a callback on it. And then so my dad started to notice, hey, when I send Chris out here, he doesn't get callbacks, even when I get callbacks. So I quickly became that lead service technician. And then we started hiring people, and I became a lead for them, and I started working my way up. In no way am I perfect. Guys, I have made so many mistakes in my career. In fact, most of the time when I tell you don't do this because of this, it's because I've done it. Or one of my techs did it, and I remember, and I analyzed it, and I quizzed them, and I figured out what happened that went bad. Do you know why I say do not ever wire incoming power to a VFD on the wrong terminals? If you wire incoming power to the out power on a VFD, it will blow up. Ask me how I know it. It's because one of my service techs did it. Okay. When I make these little videos or show them on Instagram and I say, don't ever push in a bypass contactor on a VFD, it's because one of my techs did it. And I learned from that mistake. I did the same thing. I can remember so many ways. I used to have to tell my customers, like, there was nothing worse than going to a service call and not being able to figure it out, and I would come up with the most creative ways, not lying. I would never lie to my customers, but I would come up with the most creative ways of saying, I don't know what I'm doing. but I'll figure it out and I'll be back tomorrow. Okay. Because I'd be working on an ice machine and I'd, come up with this way like, you know what? I really don't, I got it fixed and it's working, but I'm not comfortable with the way that it's operating. So I need to talk to technical support. Unfortunately, tech support's already closed. So I'm going to call them in the morning and then I'll follow up with you guys and figure out what's going on. Okay. I used to come up with these really creative, elaborative reasons to have to come back to the call. And I will be completely honest with you guys. I can't stress this enough, never charged unfair times to the customers. Guys, it has been ingrained in my head to be fair. Even to this day, I still, when I get done with the job, I look at it and I say, you know what? I think that took me about 2 hours too long. I'm going to shave 2 hours off that job. Okay. Because I look at what I think something should be done in a certain amount of time and I do it for that. Okay. When my own service techs are out and they're struggling with something, I look at the job and I say, okay, it would have taken me 8 hours to do that job and it took them 13. Yeah, we're going to charge for 9. We always try to make things fair. So have I always had integrity? I was always taught integrity. Okay. I wasn't born with integrity. I learned integrity. I learned honesty and I learned how to be an honest person. Okay. So that's my story. Do I have a favorite spur of the moment tool I have purchased? That's a good one, Adam. I don't know, man. I'll have to think about that one. I don't really have a spur of the moment answer for that one. So send me an email, bud. All right, let's see what else. I'm going to address something really quick. Sporland, they've been having their webinars. I've been talking about them for a while, guys. They have their supermarket series of webinars, and they have another one coming up on June 18th at 1 p.m. Central Time. The moderator bot should be posting a link to the webinar. I'm going to post a link too. It is going to be a webinar that you guys can log into and ask questions live if you're interested. So I posted a link right now. Feel free to check that out, guys. It's definitely, Sporland does a great job with their webinars, okay? And the two guys that host the webinars, they have such a great dynamic together. I really do love the way that they kind of converse with each other and interact with each other. It's very entertaining. And don't be, the webinar, by the way, is going to be on distributors, okay? People don't often understand what a distributor does, okay? So the bell, the little brass bell that comes after a TXV before the lines go to the evaporator coils on an air conditioner or whatever, any system that has multiple circuits or multiple circuits on the evaporator coil is going to have a distributor on it. So check that out, okay? And don't be intimidated with it being called a supermarket series. Even a residential tech can learn so much from these webinars. So check it out, guys, for sure. If I book for 9 hours, what does my tech get paid? The full 13 hours or just the... Oh, so that's a great question, Vector. So, Vector, my service technicians... Okay, so first off, I live in the state of California. Okay, so I'm going to tell you something right now. If someone puts something on their timesheet, they have to get paid for their timesheet. Now, of course, you can argue with the tech and say, that's not fair, you weren't there. But inevitably... If someone puts something on their timesheet, the best way is to go ahead and pay them for their time, okay? Now, you can figure stuff out on the back end. If you find out that your techs are taking too long and they're billing out too much time and different things like that, then obviously you have to decide whether or not to keep that service technician. But again, I kind of went off on a tangent. My service technicians get paid by the hour, so however long it takes them is how long they get paid for, okay? That's just plain and simple, all right? We don't do any weird pay schedules or any no bonus spiffs, none of that crap. My guys get paid hourly. If it takes them 7 hours, they get 7 hours. If it takes them 15 hours, they get 15 hours, okay? Overtime after 8, double time after 12. So there's a little bit more to it too. So yeah, so once, thank you, multiple offenders. So once I make that link visible, you guys will be able, once I get the website up and running, you guys will be able to purchase the shirt. So if my dad didn't do HVAC work, do I think I would still be in this trade? No, I actually don't. I don't think I would have made it into HVAC. To be honest with you, in another life, first off, during high school, I was actually signed up for the Marine Corps. I had taken the ASVAB test, and I had done everything short of signing the contract, okay? It's very interesting because I can remember going to the recruiter's office, doing all this stuff. I remember when the recruiter actually knocked on my door, I wasn't home, and my dad called me and he goes, hey, he goes, a recruiter just knocked on the door and said you enlisted, or you're enlisting in the Marine Corps. And I said, I hadn't told my dad yet. So like, I was a little bit like, I ended up not, okay. I regret not enlisting in the Marine Corps. I do very much regret that because in another life, I wish I would have. Unfortunately, the odds would have been against me because when I would have enlisted in the Marine Corps would have been in, basically September of 2001. And we all know what happened in September of 2001. So that's when I would have enlisted. So my life might have been very different, and or my life might not have been here had I enlisted. But I do regret it still to this day. It is one of those things. My brother ended up enlisting in the Marine Corps, and I'm very proud of him. He's still a Marine reservist, and he's actually deployed right now. So I'm very proud of my brother. Just one of those things I never did. But if I wasn't in HVAC, that would have been one avenue. But also in another life, if I picked up my life right now and you asked me, a lot of people are going to laugh with this one. But if I was to pick a career right now, okay, whole different life, I would never want to change my family. I love my kids, my wife. That I could never imagine changing that, okay? But if I could pick another career, I would actually be a park ranger. Of all things, guys, and not no silly little regional park. I'd be a park ranger in like Yellowstone National Park or Yosemite or something like that. I'm an avid outdoorsman at heart. I don't get out as much as I want to, but I like solitude. I like listening to myself talk sometimes, and I like just kind of being in my own thing. So I don't think if my dad didn't get me into HVAC, I would be doing this. No. So, how long have I been using field piece equipment? Probably for 13, 14 years, I'd say. Pretty early on into my career was when I got a field piece meter and kind of just went from there. Really appreciate if you guys hit the thumbs up button. It really does help out the stream. Thank you guys very much. I've been in this weird little funk lately too. I don't know if you guys get like this. I was talking to some of my buddies, Joe and Adam and Bill, from the Overtime Show. Mind you, we do the Overtime Show on Friday evenings. You guys should definitely come check it out. There's a link in the moderator bot should be posting a link to it. It's myself, Joe, Adam, and Bill from Curious HVAC Guy. We all do a show on Friday nights, so you guys should... anyways, I already said that. But I was telling them, I've been in this weird little funk lately where I get obsessed about things. And I've been so obsessed lately with a kayak. It's silliest things, guys. I cannot get it off my mind. And I think I don't want to spend the money. And here's my problem. When I go into something, I really go all out. Cadbur, thank you very much for becoming a supporter. But I really obsess about things when I start thinking about it. It probably has something to do with the whole bipolar thing. Anyways. But I cannot stop thinking about a kayak. And then YouTube and their algorithm, because I watch a couple kayak videos, fishing kayaks, guys, okay? I watched a couple kayak videos and they just keep coming and coming and coming. And all I do is watch kayak videos. And then I look at them and I'm like, the fully loaded kayak that I would want, because I can't do something simple. That's not how I do things. I got to go all out. It would be like $3,200. And I'm like, that just seems so unreasonable for an amount to spend on a stupid kayak that I realize that I'm probably only going to use it a couple times and then I'll be bored with it or something like that. But man, I cannot get that off my mind lately. I don't know if you guys get like that too. I get so obsessive and so into things that all I've been doing is watching fishing kayak videos and reviews. And I found the 2 kayaks that I like and I go back and forth. It's so silly, but that's a glimpse into my head. I just obsess about things all the time. So, I should be paying. Yeah. You know what? Lexmark567. He said I should be paid overtime for being on the Overtime Show. Hey guys, we need to have a talk, Joe. Yeah, I need to be getting paid overtime to be on the Overtime Show. All right. Yeah, I want to get a kayak. I think I'm going to get, ideally I'd like to get me a fishing kayak. I'd like to get a 2-person kayak for my wife and my daughter. And then I want to get a paddle board. That's kind of what I want to do. So then we could all go out on the lake and have fun. So, what are some pointers for starting my own business? Great question. And that's the next thing that I want to talk about, business ownership. Okay. I have it on my list of things to talk about. So, to be fair, I'm going to lay this out on the line. I run a business with my father. We share the responsibilities. There's things that he does. There's things that I do. Okay. So my main responsibilities with the business is the employees, is the customers, technical support. All right. marketing. We don't really do marketing, but anything technical, phones, like support like that. So my dad's main thing with the business is billing, and invoicing, that kind of stuff. Okay. So we kind of share those roles, right? And with that being said, starting a business, guys, starting a business is not as easy as I can remember being 20 years old thinking I could do this so much better than my dad when I was a punk kid. You know, oh, I could do this. Oh, I'm going to start my own thing and stuff like that. Like looking back on myself back then, I think, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. I was such an idiot. A business is very difficult, guys. There's so many stresses that go into it. There's good things too. Okay. The money is a good thing, right? The money comes and goes, but right now is a time when owning your own business is kind of sketch, right? Because it's a little bit difficult. It's a struggle when the customers aren't calling, right? Do you keep your employees? Do you keep them employed? Do you want them to be employed? Do you want them to be here when the virus goes away? Do you want to retain your employees? So what are you going to do to retain your employees? You're going to shell out money from your own pocket so that way you can keep them happy? So that way they don't jump ship and go somewhere else? That's the thing you got to think about when you think about that, when you think about a business. A lot of people don't think about the difficult things about a business, okay? I'm outlining the headaches because I've just been focused on the headaches lately, okay? You know, people calling in sick. Luckily I don't have that. I used to have that a lot. We don't have that very much anymore. But you know, employees calling in sick, that's a stress, right? Especially when you operate a small business like I do. You only have 4. Adam, thank you so very much. I really appreciate that. Oh, right on. Thank you, Adam. That's very nice. You know, I think that I don't want to make it sound like it's not a good thing owning a business. It is awesome, but there's a lot of stresses that are involved too. And it is a very, very stressful thing. Okay. So, it can be a pain at times. Okay. But it can also be great at times because guess what? It's pretty much known that I get off about 2:00 every Monday for the most part, unless I'm on call and something comes in, I get off because I got live streams, right? That's part of being an owner. That's a perk, right? But guess what the other side of being an owner is? I'm on call 3 weeks in a row. Okay. So I work in a refrigeration company. I have 3 employees, 2 of which that are on call that can handle the call by themselves. Okay. So that means that we have a 5-week rotation, which means I'm on call 3 weeks in a row. All right. And then after that, I always have to be available to help my other service technicians if something happens. So the stress of knowing that you can't go anywhere because, oh man, what if I leave and something happens and my guys can't figure it out? I take my business to heart and I'm concerned about my customers and things. So there's a lot of stress. Okay. So right now, if I had to start a business fresh today, in fact, I'm kind of doing that with my whole videos because I'm making a business out of it and it's driving me nuts. I'm pulling my hair out with business licenses and all this crap. It's so annoying finding, you know, oh man, I should make a whole video about just setting up a business for the videos. It's so freaking frustrating. Just driving me nuts right now. Money after money. Like this costs, there's a fee for this. There's a fee for that. But anyways, I'm just bitching, right? It is what it is. All right, let's get back to talking about what I got on my list here. So this was a great point I wanted to make, guys. So remember something. We're going to get back to my list and we'll talk about some of that in a minute. But I had a Facebook memory come up today, 2 years ago, and it was a picture of my youngest daughter. Okay. My youngest daughter is 10 years old right now. And 2 years ago, she was at gymnastics and my wife called me frantic, freaking out because she had her in the car and she said, come meet me at urgent care right now. It's an emergency. I had to drop what I was doing and I had to rush to urgent care. My daughter had dislocated her elbow. Okay. Doesn't sound too bad, but as a parent, it's the worst thing in the world. So we went to urgent care. Urgent care looked at us and said, there's nothing we can do. They looked at the severity of the dislocation. They just looked at it and the guy just barely touched it. And he said, nothing we can do. And this was the scary part. When our doctor at urgent care, which is our normal medical doctor, he just happened to be working an urgent care shift. He said, only go to this hospital. He said, only go to Loma Medical Center. They specialize in children. They can handle this the best, but that scared me the most because when our doctor says, don't go to any other hospitals, go to that one. Okay. So we went to Loma Linda. Long story short, dislocation. It was the worst thing in the world. from the x-rays. I had to be a dad, and I had to tell the x-ray technician, if you touch my goddamn daughter's arm again, I swear to God, I'm going to throw you through that window, because he kept moving the x-ray table up and down, and my daughter was like, I was the dad that was going to kill someone because he was hurting my daughter. It was a stressful time. But the worst thing about my daughter's dislocation, again, it's just a dislocation, guys. It wasn't that big of an injury, but as a dad, it's the end of the world for my baby, right? So the worst thing was, and luckily my wife, she had said, hey, we were waiting for all the doctors to come in. They were going to have to sedate her and set her arm. And they said, we need you to sign some paperwork. And the doctor handed me this paperwork, and there was about 12 pieces of paper. And I read through the first paper, and it was about the sedative they were gonna put her under, basically, and the stuff they had to give her. And when I read the first paragraph, I stopped reading, because it basically said, I'm signing this saying that they're not going to be liable if worst case scenario happens, right? And I looked at the doctor after reading the first paragraph, and I said, do you have to do this? And he said, yes. I said, there's no way around it. He said, yes. And I didn't read anything else. I just signed it and handed it to him. My daughter was fine. Okay. They set her arm. In hindsight, it really wasn't that big of a deal. She dislocated her elbow. Okay. She's fine. La-di-da. Okay. But it was stressful as a parent. The reason why I bring that story up, Facebook reminded me of that today. It was 2 years ago. It was a memory. My daughter survived. She went, biggest thing too, out of that whole story, guys, I did not force her. On my daughter's own decision, she went back to gymnastics after that. I was so proud as a dad, because even after she dislocated her elbow, she wanted to go back to gymnastics. That was one of the best proud dad moments. Now, when she asked me 3 weeks after she went back if she could quit, I was ecstatic to say yes. I wasn't even going to argue. But the fact that she went back without me telling her, I was happy, because she didn't quit. Okay. Now, the reason why I brought this up, guys, that Facebook memory made me reflect today. We get stressed at work. We're dealing with business crap. We're dealing with anything. But guess what, guys? Guess what? That's not the important stuff in our life. Okay. Work is not important. I can get another job. I can find more money. I can't find another daughter. Okay. You can't find another wife. Your family is the most important thing. Okay. Your work, your car, none of the material things matter. Your family is the number one thing. And seeing that Facebook memory today made me reflect on that and remember that life is too short. And again, my story is my daughter dislocating her elbow. I realize it was nothing, guys, right? As far as an injury. I'm sure many of you guys have dealt with many other things that are far worse. But in that moment, that was the worst injury my daughter could ever have in my eyes, because I was a dad and I was worried about my kid. But it just made me reflect to remember that family is the most important thing. And you guys need to take time for your families. If I can tell you to do anything, take time for your families, spend time with them. And don't ignore them, because this stuff, it can all be replaced. Your family can't. So, all right, now that I went off on that tangent, we can get back to talking about what you guys have in here. Electrically minded MK, you said you have a legitimate question. You have a mini refrigerator and the compressor tripped on thermal overload and was very hot. Is it bad or in need of refrigerant and or oil? Okay, so typically on a mini split refrigerator, if there's a refrigerant leak, for the most part, it's not going to be really repairable, okay? Unless there's only a few joints where you can braze on it, but most of it goes into the evaporator, which is encapsulated in the walls or the shelves, and it's not really a repairable thing. Compressor could be replaced, okay, but I don't know if your compressor is bad, depending on if it has starting components, okay? I would say most mini split refrigerators probably don't have starting components, but if it went off on overload, it's hard to say. I mean, it could be a bunch of things, but most mini split refrigerators are so cheap, it's not even worth buying a compressor for it, because you can probably go pick one up at the store for, less than $500. And by the time you buy a compressor and all that stuff, you're going to spend just as much as that. So, but there's no telling what's wrong with that without being there. All right, let's see what else. How many kids? I have 2 kids, Chris, 2 daughters. All right, let me see what else. I'm seeing what I miss. Oh, yeah. Ernesto, great point, though. Ernesto says, HVACR vlogger, he says he feels like I would be much happier working for someone else, more free time. Great point. I said that to my wife one day. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go work for someone. And you know what? She looked at me and she says, no, you're not, because you'd be the same person. She goes, you obsess about everything. You can't let things go. You have to be in control. She goes, you'd probably be more stressed out working for someone else because you wouldn't be able to control what was going on. My wife knows me really well, guys. She's probably right. In fact, I know she's right. All right. What happened when charge 410A without a vacuum is that 410A without a vacuum is not good. It will cause damage to the system. Depending on, you know, I don't think it's going to explode per se. If you had oxygen in the system, I guess you could have potential for some explosions or different things like that. But it's definitely going to shorten the life. Polyester oil doesn't do really well with moisture or air mixed in with it. Compressors aren't meant to compress air. That'd be if you have air and moisture in the system that's a non-condensable, it's going to become a problem. So as far as what would happen, I think inevitably your compressor would probably fail sooner than later. Would probably be the worst case, but I mean, yeah. All right. Thank you very much there, Trusty Pie. All right, let's see what else. Did my father start my company by himself? Yes, my father started our company in 1989, 88, something like that, all by himself, and built it up over the years. So, yes, he started all by himself, just working, just him alone. All right. I answered this one, answered that one. Oh, great question. So Robert had sent me an email. He's a viewer, and he asked a really fun question. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever thought about this one, but let's think about this. You've seen it in movies, and he actually brought up the movie Short Circuit, okay? 1980s movie about a little robot. Great little movie. And he brought up that movie because in that movie, two gentlemen were locked in a walk-in freezer. And he asked me a question. He said, hey, what would I do if I was locked in a walk-in freezer? Okay, knowing what I know, what would I do if I got locked in a walk-in freezer? First off, I'm going to tell you that most people that think they're locked in a walk-in freezer are panicking, okay? For the most part, most modern-day walk-in refrigerators and walk-in freezers have safety latches that if you push them in the right way, it'll bypass a lock and open the door, okay? Unless that has been tampered with or changed, okay? If someone's put a padlock on the outside of the freezer, well, then you might be in trouble, okay? So, assuming that you know the system that you're working on, in my scenario, if I was locked in a walk-in freezer, I would try to remember what kind of hinges it has on it, okay? If the door is an exterior mount, there's a possibility that you could lift up on the door and pop the hinges out of the cam, or pop the cams out of the hinges and push the door off. That'd be one way. If I couldn't do that, depending on, I would imagine that I would know this, depending on what type of door it is, you might be able to bust the door open by banging on the hinges, because oftentimes, depending on the system, okay, not every door, but depending on the hinges and stuff, sometimes they're barely held into just sheet metal. So you can sometimes knock the hinges, the screws right out of the hinges by hitting it hard enough. So let's say I can't get the door off. Most walk-in freezers in the chain restaurants that I work in actually have panic alarms. The panic alarms are meant to be there in case someone gets robbed, okay? So if someone gets robbed, they can run inside the walk-in. There's a padlock on the inside of the door. They can lock it, and they can pull the panic alarm. The panic alarm calls the police department, tells them that the restaurant's being robbed. The police will typically come code blue without sirens. They'll usually come with helicopters and multiple squad cars. They'll enter the building. They'll clear the building. Ask me why I know, because I've done it, okay? Accidentally it's triggered a panic alarm. People aren't happy when they show up with a freaking helicopter. I'm not joking with you. Anyway, so if I didn't have a panic alarm, the next thing, I would not try to pull a refrigerant line, okay? That's the last thing you want to do, is bust a refrigerant line in a walk-in freezer that you locked in, because where's that gas going to go? Not really going to escape the box very easily, okay? More than likely what I would do is I would reach up and unplug the coil, okay? End up unplugging the neutral to the coil if I could get in there safely. Of course, you'd have a hard time getting the panel off, but I'm sure I could figure out a way to get the panel off. Get up in there and unplug the neutral, undo the electrical somehow, and then wait for someone to come help me is probably what I would do. I'd probably be working on busting some hinges off, though, in the meantime. Yeah, so that's what I would do. What would you guys do in that situation, you know? I've had people freak out. Some of my restaurants used to keep an axe in their freezer. They would have an axe hanging on the door. Like, what the hell is someone going to do with an axe? Like, Yeah, but whatever. All right. Are walk-in equipment replacements caused by a long list of problems? Yeah, I mean, it depends. So, it depends, Chris Emery, and the city that you're in. So I accidentally triggered a walk-in freezer panic alarm when I was working in the city of San Bernardino, California. And I was a cocky young kid at the time. So the manager came running into the walk-in asking me, what did I do? What did I do? And I said, I don't know what you did. And he said, there's police here. They want to talk to you. And I was a cocky kid. And I said, tell him to come in the walk-in. I'm not going out there. I'm working. So I was working, and the sergeant came into the walk-in, and he was not too happy to hear that I wasn't willing to walk out of the box. Yeah, I got my ass chewed out that day because, basically they sent the manager in to get me, and I didn't come out. So yeah, they had a helicopter and they had multiple police cars, and it was all a false alarm. Now, it wasn't my fault because the alarm was, it was a malfunction on the alarm. I never touched the alarm, the panic alarm. What I was doing was working on the walk-in door. I was actually putting hinges on the walk-in door, and the alarm was on the other side of the wall. So me banging on the door somehow triggered the alarm. So I made sure that they had that replaced after I was done. I've been in other cities where the panic alarm was triggered, and I was literally standing outside a restaurant, and a police officer pulled up, and he said, hey, what's going on in there? And I said, I don't know why. And he goes, we got a panic alarm. And I said, oh, okay. I said, there's a bunch of people in the restaurant. Do you want me to go get the manager? And he said, yeah. The police officer never got out of his car, never went into the restaurant. I went in and got the manager, and the manager came out, talked to him, and he drove away. They could have been being robbed. So it really depends on the city. But in the city of San Bernardino, they came with a helicopter. Yup. No joke. Gian, you asked if I can explain how to set up a pressure control, cut in and cut out, say R22 walk-in cooler. That's a very loaded question. There's a lot to that one. It really depends on a lot of different factors. Is it a pump down system? Is it not a pump down system? Is the pressure control controlling temperature, or is it just an off cycle? It really all depends on that. You need a pressure temperature chart, and you need to figure out the cut in and cut out temperatures. So it's not really something I can tell you how to do over a video. Okay. I would highly suggest in the show notes of this video is a book called Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians. And I would highly suggest getting that book. It'll help you to understand how to set up pressure controls, and why you need to set the cut in and cut out at certain pressures. Okay, pressure controls do a lot more than just shutting the system off when the pressure gets too low. So they can be low ambient. They can be temperature controllers to make sure the system doesn't get too cold. They can do all kinds of things. So send me an email if you need some more clarification on that one. hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Okay. Can I do something about my voice being out of sync with the video? No. If it's out of sync, I don't know why it is. Usually my voice is pretty much in sync. There might be a lag or something with YouTube. There's not much I can do about that right now. I mean, of course, I can make adjustments, but I wouldn't want to do that without... I could really mess things up. So there's not anything I can do right now. You can try to refresh. I don't know if... Is it out of sync for everybody, or is it just for you? What you can try to do is just hit refresh on YouTube. Sometimes your connection might not be that great. Can I explain pump down, and why does the system pump down? Elam, I don't know if that's how you pronounce your name. Well, pump down is, there's a couple different reasons why we might pump down a system, okay? Depending on if a system has multiple, why am I tripping over myself right now? I can't think straight. I was trying to say something and I lost my train of thought. But if your system is a multiplex system, there we go. So do you have multiple evaporators on the system with one condensing unit? Okay. In that situation, you're going to pump the system down because each evaporator coil is going to be controlled via a temperature controller, and it's going to have a solenoid valve, and it's going to shut off the system. And at some point, all of them shut off. The system's going to pump down and the compressor is going to shut off. Okay. Another reason why we do a pump down is to prevent a flooded start. Okay. So oftentimes in the off cycle, the refrigerant can migrate, and when you go to start the system up, it can all come to the compressor, or the compressor could be loaded with liquid refrigerant and you could slug the valves in the compressor. So a pump down system would prevent that. That's probably one of the most important reasons why. So hopefully I answered your question there. You can send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com if you need some more clarity. Okay. In sync over there. All right, cool. Yeah, so you probably just want to hit refresh, and it's probably your connection. So let me see what else. Interesting. Okay. All right. I'm going to get to my list of things right here. Flammable refrigerants. So I get a lot of questions about flammable refrigerants, and someone, forgive me, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but someone had asked me a question about R600 and about R600 exploding. And he was worried about the refrigerant. He thinks it had something to do with R600. Okay, guys, I'm going to tell you right now that majority of the stories and things that you have read about on social media about refrigerants, mini splits exploding, different things like that, have almost everything to do with improper installation and or improper service practices, okay? If you don't follow proper procedures, right, when you're working on a system, whatever refrigerant, it's going to have ill effects. It's going to cause problems, okay? When you're working with flammable refrigerants, it's even more important. So when you're working with flammable refrigerants, you need to purge the system of any flammable refrigerants before you work on it, before you open anything up, before you braze, okay? So you usually do that with nitrogen. You do not, I repeat, you do not use oxygen, okay? There's a certain instance, there's actually 2 instances that I have heard about where someone pressure tested a system with oxygen, which did not end well, and another symptom where there was oxygen in the system when the system was running, and this is what I heard, okay? So it's hard to say, but majority of the situations where you hear of explosions typically happen because people don't know what they're doing when they're installing these systems. Unfortunately, in other countries, they're not, you know, the service technicians are not as qualified. Not all of them, but some of them are not as qualified as some of the more developed countries, okay? If you do not pull a vacuum before you charge a system with a hydrocarbon or a flammable refrigerant, you are asking for trouble. That system potentially has some issues, okay? And you can have an explosion. So you need to make sure that whenever you've done service work, you pull a proper evacuation on the system, not just for 5 minutes and let it go. You pull evacuation using a micron gauge, then you charge the system properly, then you start it up properly, okay? Had another question about flammable refrigerants because I work with R290 quite often. Almost a majority of my refrigerators that are installed today have R290 in them, okay? Something we work with all the time. A lot of people are afraid of R290. It's really just another refrigerant. It operates very similar to R22 as far as refrigeration goes, okay? Much lower condensing temps than, or condensing pressure than R404A, its predecessor. With R290, I'm not worried about an explosion because I follow proper practices, okay? We're following the guidelines. Now, the question that was asked of me was, when I'm working on an R290 system, do I always cut off the service ports when I am done working on it? That is a real gray area, okay? If you follow proper installation practices via the manufacturer, especially if it's under warranty, when you go to the system, majority of the time, it's not going to have service ports from the factory, meaning that it was charged and welded shut and has been operating since. So to work on it, you're actually going to have to add service ports to the system. I typically do that with a stub valve. I braze it on with a pinch-off tool and then, you know, access the system. I've got a couple videos that show that. So the question is, do I always take those ports off when I'm done working on the system? Yes and no, okay? I prefer to take the ports off when it's a warranty job, okay? But I start to worry about my service technicians taking those off, and I'm about ready to make it a point to say no more taking them off, just because I'm worried about something bad happening. Watch any one of the end of my R290 videos and you'll know what I'm talking about, because with R290 still in the system, you use a pinch-off tool. You take your torch, you unsweat the fitting, you pinch it shut, you braze it shut. The R290 is just on the other side of that pinch-off tool. That's the only thing holding that flammable refrigerant back. It's a bit sketchy, right? I'm not afraid of doing it, but I'm afraid of my service techs doing it because I'm afraid that someone's going to hurt themselves. So at this time right now, my company policy is if it's under warranty, you take the service ports off. But I'm strongly thinking about changing that policy just because I want to make sure that my guys are safe and I don't want anybody to accidentally get hurt. The point of taking them off, though, is a really good point. The manufacturer doesn't want someone to just go up to the system and put the gauges on there without realizing that it's a flammable refrigerant. Plus, on top of that, the refrigerant charge is usually about 150 grams. That's like 5.5 ounces of refrigerant. If someone goes and puts service gauges with 4-foot hoses on there, the system's never going to operate properly unless they compensate for the amount of refrigerant that's going to be stuck in those hoses. So I understand why the manufacturer wants them cut off, so that way someone has to think before they put service gauges on there. But at the same time, I'm also worried about my employees' safety. So let's see. Your company is Delfield's only FAS, and they want you to leave the ports on for R290. HVACR Whiz. That's very interesting because I'm a Delfield contractor too. And according to their training literature, we're supposed to take them off when we're done. But I'm not going to, it's not a big deal if you don't take them off. Just so long as you understand, you know, that it's an R290 system and you need to be cautious. So what can cause a locked up compressor? For the most part, things that can cause a locked up compressor is going to be some sort of a mechanical damage within the compressor. Likely could be caused by loss of oil. You know, different things like that. But it's probably going to be a mechanical issue that causes a compressor to lock up, because essentially that means it's drawing locked rotor amps, power is being applied to the compressor, and the internals are not spinning because something in there is stuck. Something is damaged. So that's majority of the time what's going to cause a locked up compressor. What are my thoughts on using dye to find a tough leak? Mr. Green. I have used dye, I think 2 or 3 times in my career. I wasn't proud of it, and I still pay the price for them for using it to this day because I still work on that same system, and the compressor has since been changed and there's still dye in the system. The stuff just gets everywhere. It served a purpose. I don't like using it though. After we did that, we never used it again. Plus, I'm not a fan of putting things in the system that don't belong in there. But in our situation, I understand why some people do use dye, but I'm just not a fan of it. But some people do use it. They tend to put way too much dye in there. A little bit goes a mile, guys. So you don't need to put a gallon of dye in the system if you're going to use it. But be cautious if you're going to use any kind of an additive in the system. Find out what the manufacturer, what their warranty policy is when using that crap. All right. Let's see what else we got going on. Is there a brand? That's a great question. Is there a brand of equipment that I would walk up to and think, ugh, not today? That's a good one. So my favorite ice machines to work on are Manitowoc, Hoshizaki, Fullet, and yeah, Manitowoc, Hoshizaki, and Fullet ice machines are my favorite ice machines to work on. The other brands, yeah, they make my head hurt when I go to work on them. So those would probably be an ice machine and be like, oh man, I really don't want to work on one of these today. Now, to be fair, it's not necessarily because they're bad ice machines. It's because I'm not used to working on them. Once you start working on something enough, even if it has problems, you get super used to it. You don't mind working on it. Okay. So just because I prefer to work on Linux air conditioners all day long, the package units, and I prefer to work on Carrier package units, doesn't mean that Train and York are bad. It just means that I'm not as comfortable working on those. So I tend to get more frustrated in that situation. What do I think about R11 flush? I prefer not to use it, but I will be fair, okay, and say that I used it for majority of my career and never saw a problem because of using it, but I don't use it anymore. I've been kind of talked out of it just by watching and reading a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of write-ups and different things that say that there's the potential for the solvent that's in the R11 to get stuck in the system and to leave residue in the system and potentially cause problems. So, but again, I used it for majority of my career, flushed systems out with it incorrectly, by the way, too, not flushing them correctly. So I'm sure there's plenty of that R11 still, RX11 still stuck in the system, but never had a problem that I knew of. So, you know, I just choose not to use it. What do I use? Easy Seal? No. Leak sealant drives me nuts. If I see leak sealant in the system, Now, If a customer demanded or asked me to use it in a last case scenario, I would, of course, do whatever the customer wanted, but I would do my due diligence and make sure that they understand that if I put any kind of leak sealant in the system, it's on them. No warranty, no anything, because I don't trust that stuff. I don't care what brand it is. I don't care what they tell you about it being non-polymers or whatever crap. I don't trust that stuff in a system, period. So, ever had the fire truck show up? Yes, Chris Emery. Smoke detector. Working on a smoke detector on a shopping mall early in my career, not knowing that if you take a cover off of a smoke detector, it can trigger the alarm and cause issues. So I was just working up there, and yes, I have had the fire department show up on the shopping mall. It was not it was a scary, kind of like, whoa, what happened, you know? And yeah, no, not happy. Have I ever had a compressor blow its terminal pins after shorting out? Not while I was watching it, no. I've never been watching a compressor and have it blow its terminal pins. I've come up after many times and seen terminal pins blow out, but I've never had the luxury of seeing it happen live. Ever worked on equipment with subcooling valves? I think I have early in my career, but I'm not enough to talk about subcooling valves, no. So, all right, let me see what I have on my list here. I already answered that one. Oh, great question. So I've been getting, or comment. I've been getting a bunch of comments about, you know, my videos, and I'm going to address two things in here. So I've been getting comments from people saying that I shouldn't, you know, I'm doing this wrong. I didn't show everything correctly in my video, that, you know, I didn't follow all proper procedures, and I'm a hack. Okay, so be it. That's your opinion. Okay. The next one was someone pointing out the fact that I'm assuming I didn't rewatch my videos. You guys have to remember something too. I have 30 some odd videos, right, over the last a year and a half, 2 years or something. And I get comments on those videos early, like the third, fourth video I ever released, I get a comment, and I literally have to go and rewatch the video to answer those questions, which I'm fine with. It's cool. But people comment on some of those, and then it's like, oh man, I got to rewatch that thing because I don't remember what I did. I have an idea that I probably did something right, but I want to be fair when I answer the question. So I had a video where I was working on an ice machine, and the comment is, don't ever put your gauges on an ice machine. That is the absolute last resort, and all this different stuff. Okay, you have to understand, guys. I may not show everything in my videos. Again, these videos, yes, I realize that they help people. I realize that you guys get something from some of them. But some of these videos, I'm just filming my job, okay? Sometimes some things happen in my head. Of course, I know that putting your gauges on an ice machine is ideally the last thing you should do. But also in my head, when I walk up to that and I look at the error messages and I see that the sensors are working right on a Manitowoc ice machine, but then I see TXV fault or different things like that, and I notice that we have harvest issues, I'm going to put my service gauges on it, okay? Because I did a visual inspection. I noticed that the evaporator didn't look that dirty. So I'm going to put my gauges. So sometimes I may skip some steps. I'm human. I'm not perfect, guys. Okay. I purposely don't show everything in my videos. Okay. And I'm going to break a lot of hearts right now because I know I have a lot of new viewers in this channel, and I'm sure some of you are not HVACR service technicians, and that's fine. I'm okay if you watch my videos, but I am not a DIY channel. That's one of those things in the very beginning of the stream. I said I'm going to do things my way. I will never be a DIY channel. These videos are not meant to take away from anybody's job, okay? These videos are made for service technicians. I realize other people watch them and get enjoyment, and that's cool. I appreciate it. But they are meant for service technicians. So I purposely leave very important parts out of my videos because I would not want to take someone's job in another state or wherever because someone watched my video and saw every step on how to change this part and how to diagnose this part, and so they went and did the work themselves. Now, I realize some people are very intuitive people and they're very smart, and they could probably figure it out even if they didn't watch my video. I can't help that, okay? But I am a business owner. I do not want my customers to watch a YouTube video and take my business from me, okay? Therefore, I do not show every step in my video. That's just the way I do things. And I'm sorry if I lose subs from that. That's fine. Okay. I am not a DIY channel, and I will never want to take a job from another contractor because someone watched my video and decided to try to do it themselves. Then there's the liability aspect of it too. I do dangerous work. I work with electrical. flammable, different things like that, things that I can stick my hand in and get my hand chopped off. I wouldn't want someone to try to watch my video and then go get their damn arm cut off because, oh, Chris said to do it this way. No. So I purposely leave key points out of my videos, okay? Typically, I show the problem in the beginning, something really interesting in the middle, and then the result is the typical format of my videos. So, all right, let's see what else. Mitsubishi is using R32 on all of their new equipment here. Have I had any dealings with R32? No, I have not dealt with R32 yet, but I did hear that Mitsubishi and I think Daikin, I think there's someone else that adopted R32 also. I think it was Daikin, wasn't it? For some of their stuff, maybe for their VRF systems or something. Yeah. All right. DIY, do it yourself. So, can I put R290 in a 410A system? Just curious. No, do not whatsoever try to put R290 in anything it was not designed for. The compressor that pumps R290 is different than the compressor that pumps 134A. The components are sealed. The condenser fan motor is different. All the components are redesigned in hydrocarbon systems to operate with flammable refrigerants. They're spark proof, they're explosion proof. You try putting R290 in a system that wasn't designed for it, you are gambling with your life and or other people's lives. So don't do it. Do my customers watch my videos on their equipment? Paul L., I don't publicize. I don't make it publicly known that I'm filming. I don't throw it out to my customers. I don't show my customers my videos. So it's hard to say. I know some of my customers know that I film. So, you know, I'm sure some of them do. All right. Let me see what I'm missing. You do teach customers how to do stuff when they screw up. Always, they generate more work for you. Yeah. And I mean, there's some things I'm going to walk my customers through things over the phone too. My customer calls me and says, my walk-in freezer's not working. Okay. Did you check the circuit breaker? Yes. Are you interested in going on the roof? Yes. Okay. Look at the time clock for me. You know, I'll have them check some things and maybe I can walk them through a service call. Oh, someone left the disconnect switch off. Flip it on. Boom. Okay. They didn't have to pay me to go out there, you know? So I'll help them a little bit. So it just depends. All right. What is my thoughts on customers' direct equipment sales cutting us out of the loop? Dylan Hall, great question. I don't like it at all, but because I work in commercial restaurants, okay, that's part of my job and I have no control over it. So majority of my national chains that I do work for buy their own air conditioners, buy their own refrigerators, buy their own ice machines, buy their own everything. Exhaust fans. Typically, I don't sell my customers equipment. I sell my customers service. So when they replace equipment, if you guys see me doing installations on equipment, majority of the time, I didn't sell them that equipment. The customer bought it themselves and I was installing it for them. I don't like it, but if you do chain restaurant work, you've got to deal with it because that's how every chain restaurant out there operates. If they're a corporately owned chain, they buy their own equipment and you just install it for them. That's just part of the game. So, but I'm not a fan of it. Are microchannel condensers more reliable than fin and tube condensers? I wouldn't say more reliable, HVAC Smith. I would say that they're more efficient. I will agree with that. But, you know, they have their own issues. Microchannel condensers require special cleaners, which is okay. Majority, you can use the Hvacr cleaners, the Viper HD cleaner, or the, I can't think of the name of it right now, but the Viper condenser coil cleaner from Refrigeration Technologies is microchannel safe. They call them Venom packs. That's what I was trying to think of. They're Venom packs. But, you know, microchannel condensers have their own problems too, depending on the system. It can be hard to pump down a system that has a microchannel condenser. It can also be difficult to repair a refrigerant leak on a microchannel condenser because oftentimes it's on the aluminum portion. So there's some tricky things you got to do to repair them. So they are more efficient, but honestly, I prefer tube and fin condensers. So I'm old school though. Testo digital gauges, yay or nay? Joshua Jones, I have never used Testo gauges, so I can't say good or bad about them. I have heard some bad things about them. I am a field piece fan. I like the field piece gauges. I have the field piece S-Man. I love it. I also have the field piece JobLink probes. I love them absolutely. The field piece JobLink probes have great range, and the manifold gauge is amazing. So I can't say anything bad about Testo other than things that I've heard, but I physically have not ever held a Testo gauge and used it myself. So have I ever thought about designing my own refrigerator? Adam Neal, well, I have in a way, okay? I really haven't done videos on it. I think I might have a clip that I can release. okay, so this is how this goes. I have a manufacturer that I do work for, okay? An equipment manufacturer. They're not a nationwide manufacturer. They're a local stainless steel fabricator, and they fabricate and make their own refrigerators. So oftentimes they will get with me and we will design a refrigerator for a customer. We will come up with a cold rail. We will come up with custom coils in it. They will build the stainless. I will put the refrigeration equipment in. I'll design like where I want to put the condensing unit, different things like that. So I have done it. I have ideas in my head on, just by working on so many refrigerators, what is horrible about a refrigerator and what is really good. So, I have done some designing in one way, but as far as like mainstream designs and selling them to people, no, not really. These are custom units that are designed by a stainless steel shop, and then, we send them to a customer. We build an entire restaurant or something like that, but it's not going out to 500 restaurants across the country or anything like that. All right. Testo had issues with clamps and connections to manifold. Yeah. A lot of people have bad things to say about Testo, but again, I can only relay what I've heard, but I physically have not touched them myself, so I can't say. Would I go and buy a Testo manifold right now? No, I wouldn't. But again, I don't want to talk crap. I just wouldn't. All right. When do I think Fluke will make a digital gauge? Well, the problem with Fluke making a digital gauge is Fluke is an electrical manufacturer. They're not a refrigeration manufacturer. So I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, they do make gauges, though, to be honest with you. Now that I think about it, Fluke does make a digital gauge. It's just so expensive that nobody buys it. I believe it used to be on TrueTechTools.com. By the way, I probably haven't mentioned it yet. I do work with TrueTech Tools. If you guys are interested in buying tools and you find that TrueTech Tools has good pricing, I will say I can stand behind their customer service because they have great customer service. But TrueTechTools.com, if you guys use my offer code Big Picture, one word, you'll save 8% on the order. And it's actually a way to support the channel because I get a small commission. It doesn't cost you a single thing if you use my offer code Big Picture. So let's see. Is there any PM I do on my gauges, preventative maintenance on my gauges? First off, I ran into another service technician recently, and we just got to talking in the supply house parking lot, and he said, hey, I'm having a problem with my gauges. We were just talking, and they happen to be a field piece set, and he was asking me, if I knew anybody. Anyways, but what I noticed was he kept pressure in his gauges, okay? So his hoses, first off, he had his hoses tightened so ridiculously tight, he used channel locks to tighten them on. Don't do that because it wears out the seals. You just tighten your hoses finger tight, okay? But he left pressure in them while they were sitting and hanging up. Now, when you're dealing with the compound gauges, the old school gauges, it's actually bad to leave pressure in your gauges. And I would highly say, I don't know this to be 100% true, but it's probably not a great thing to do on an electronic transducer-based refrigerant gauge either, the electronic digital gauges. So I don't keep any refrigerant pressure in my gauges as one form of preventative maintenance. The next thing is change your seals and your hoses often. If your hoses start to look worn out, it's just time to change them. Get a new set and move on, okay? Personally, I find that rebuilding my hoses is just kind of ridiculous. I don't mind changing the end gaskets once or twice, but it starts to get ridiculous, and I just buy new hoses once a year, basically. Do we use Case Parts? Also, honestly believe it's one of the best shops. Yeah, I use Case Parts for sure. Case Parts is a local parts distributor. They started selling supermarket case parts. That's why they're called Case Parts. But I do use Partstown too. So Case Parts is local to me. They're in Monterey Park, California, which is about an hour from my shop. But yeah, we do use Case Parts, and then we also use Partstown too. Partstown is actually, my customers actually demand that I use Partstown. One of my national chains requires that I use Partstown. So, why are your pressures so high on your walk-in freezer using 404A? About 25 PSI on the suction, 350 to 375 on the high side. Fan motors are running and you've cleaned the coil. Any suggestions? There's a lot to that. Your suction pressure is going to be based on your box temperature and your evaporator temperature and based off of your expansion valve size. Okay, so if that's not set up right, if your expansion valve's not sized right, if it doesn't have the right distributor in it, your suction pressure is going to be adversely affected. Your condensing pressure, okay, or condensing temperature is going to be based on the outdoor ambient temperature and the size of the condensing unit. So in Southern California, 350 to 375, that's about a 95-degree day. Pretty common. Nothing bad about a 95-degree day in Southern California with 350 to 375 head pressure. Not bad at all. So it really depends on the ambient temperature and the box temperature and the system design. So yeah, that's kind of a loaded question. I'd need much more information to be able to help you out with that one. You can feel free to send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Let me get through my list right here. I already answered that one. Okay. So I had a question. Multiple people commented in the video that I released about 3 videos ago. It was a walk-in freezer that I went behind another company, and it was a drain line was the only issue. And it caused all sorts of havoc and whatever, because at the end of that video, I ended up fixing the door heater for their walk-in freezer door also. And a lot of people commented, you stole that neutral from somewhere else. You don't ever steal a neutral. You need a dedicated neutral, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, guys, remember, again, with my videos, I know that you need to have a neutral. You're not supposed to steal neutrals or rob neutrals from other circuits. The previous company in that video used the wrong neutral, okay? I found that I hooked back up to the lighting circuit. Okay, now the way that that box was manufactured, because I work for that restaurant chain and I do tons of their work, I know how those restaurants are designed. And I know that the walk-in freezer door heater in that situation is supposed to be wired up to the lights for the walk-in freezer. So when I fixed the electrical, I found that they did not have it wired up correctly, and I hooked it back up to the lighting circuit neutral, which was the way it was supposed to be from the factory. The previous company had a ground wire and a bad neutral and all kinds of crap, and I took all that stuff out of there. So I realize I may not relate everything in my videos, but sometimes I know what I'm doing. So still have my old man Frank's pint glass. Yes, I do, OMF. I definitely do. I was actually just looking at it because I've got the Sporlin one right here. But yep, you gave that to me at the AHR trade show in Orlando, did you not? I remember you gave that to me there. And I think, did you give it to me at the trade show or did you give it to me after the trade show? I can't remember. Anyways, all right, let's see what else. Have I worked on any ultra low temp systems? No, I wouldn't even claim that I've worked on them. I touched one of them one time, but I ended up having them call the ultra low company because I didn't specialize in that. Can I explain how a receiver works? You still don't understand what it is. Okay, you just still don't understand a receiver. What is an accumulator? You know how a dryer works. The simplest explanation of a receiver is it's a storage tank. It's a storage tank for liquid refrigerant. It's on the liquid line of the system. Whenever the expansion valve doesn't need more liquid, so the expansion valve opens and closes, okay, and allows more refrigerant to go into the evaporator or less refrigerant. When it requires less refrigerant in the evaporator, refrigerant is backed up into the system. The theory of an expansion valve, let's try to make it make sense, okay? So this isn't how a refrigeration system works, okay? But if you have a water hose and you clamp the nozzle down full blast, the water is going to pour out of it. But you got to have water on the backside to push out of it, right? Okay, so when you let off the nozzle, the water starts spraying out at a less rate, right? But that water is backing up somewhere else, okay? So an expansion valve opens and closes, okay? And it has to have a place for that refrigerant to back up into. So a receiver is just a storage device. It's a place for the refrigerant to back up into when it's not being used in the system, okay? I know it's hard to visualize, but at any given time, there's liquid refrigerant just sitting in that receiver. So this receiver right here, this is a cutaway of a small receiver, okay? This is where the refrigerant's going to leave and go to the expansion valve. Here's the expansion valve right here. So when this expansion valve requires or closes down and doesn't let refrigerant into the system or lets less refrigerant in, that refrigerant is going to back up into this receiver and the level's going to get higher and higher. But then as more refrigerant's required, the level's going to get lower and lower. The reason why we have a dip tube is so that way when the level gets lower, it still pulls liquid refrigerant because our expansion valve requires liquid refrigerant for it to operate properly. Okay, an accumulator works in the opposite. Okay, accumulator makes sure that it's installed on the suction line before the compressor, and it makes sure that liquid refrigerant doesn't get back to the compressor. Okay, so it's a safety device basically. I don't have a cutaway of an accumulator, but the way that an accumulator is designed is it makes sure that liquid refrigerant doesn't get back to the compressor. All right, let's see what else I got on my list here. Seth had asked me about sight glasses, and he said, hey, he goes, I got a question, because he saw me he's charging a system via a sight glass on a expansion valve system. And he said, can I use a sight glass on an air conditioner, on a residential air conditioner? Yes, you could, but there's a caveat. Okay, for the most part, if you put a sight glass on a residential air conditioner, okay, a residential air conditioner that has an expansion valve operates off of the same principle. There has to be 100% liquid going into this valve for it to work right. Doesn't matter if it's a refrigerator or an air conditioner. Expansion valves operate with liquid refrigerant going in, and then they have a vapor liquid mixture coming out. Okay? So on a residential air conditioner, would a sight glass be a good idea? Yes, but something to understand. To get the higher SEER ratings, they put different size condenser coils on there. And when you're charging a system for a residential air conditioner that has an expansion valve, you charge via subcooling. Once you get to the proper airflow and the proper subcooling reading, you have a properly operating system working at its highest efficiency potential. Okay. So just because you have a clear sight glass on a residential air conditioning system does not mean it's fully charged. So with that being said, if you put a sight glass on a residential system, just because it's clear doesn't mean it has the proper charge, okay? Now, if the sight glass is flashing, it typically means that it's way undercharged, okay? But if it's on there, it can confuse a lot of people. So is a sight glass on a residential system a good idea? In theory, yes, but when you think about other service technicians coming behind you, it's just going to confuse them. You're better off just leaving it off and charging via subcooling, assuming that once you have, the proper subcooling, you have a clear sight glass going to the expansion valve. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question for you, bud. How often do I deal with animals like mice and rats in the field? Actually, I deal with that quite often in the restaurants. I deal with mice and rats quite often. Roaches, I haven't released a video on it, but I'm going to do a repair on a refrigerator that I went out that is infested with roaches. There's actually a roach nest in the temperature controller, the electronic digital temperature controller. I might just end up coming up with a clip for that one because it just depends on whether or not I can film it. But yeah, I deal with pests of all sorts. Not so much like raccoons or anything like that. I'm not going in crawl spaces under buildings for the most part. But yeah, I do deal with mice, rats, and roaches quite often. So spiders too. So are capillary tubes better than TXVs? Not necessarily. TXVs are much more efficient and the systems tend to operate better. Capillary tubes tend to take a lot longer to bring box temperature down and, inevitably bring the product temperature down. So I would say that expansion valves are better. Am I planning on going to Chicago AHR? Yeah, tentatively, that's the plan. I will be at AHR in Chicago. I haven't booked anything yet. I probably need to start looking into that. With the whole COVID thing and stuff, it was just kind of up in the air, but that's my plan. I plan on going to AHR in Chicago for sure. So there's a lot of us that are going to be going. The overtime crew, we're going to try to all get together for the most part. So have I ever installed a RAL or an APR control valve, and why? No, I have not installed a RAL or an HVAC or an APR valve. Essentially, it's, for those of you guys that don't know, just look up RAWAL valve or APR valve. It's a capacity thing, okay? It's for a system that operates at low ambient conditions, different things like that. But no, I've never installed one. I've seen them installed many times, but never had to. When am I coming out with my own book? I'm not smart enough to write my own book. Have I ever installed? Oh, no, I already answered that one. Will be new videos coming on my tool review channel. Steven, tool review channel is not my priority. Definitely have ideas and videos I'm working on for that one, but I will hopefully soon. They'll be coming out. I know I keep saying soon, but again, my priority is the videos channel, 2 videos a week. The tool channel is just kind of when I come up with them. So looking to get an evac kit, TrueTech Tools Rapid Evac or True Blue kit. Dylan, True Blue. if I recommend to anybody, get the TrueBlue evacuation kit. Now, I have the professional kit. When you look up the price of that, you're probably going to crap your pants. I would suggest starting with the basic package and then building from there. Do me a favor and use my offer code BIGPICTURE, one word, and you'll save 8% on your order. But definitely look at the TrueBlue hoses. They are so worth their weight in gold. So they're expensive, but they're worth it. So looking to get an eval. I already answered that one. I charge comfort cooling by subcool and refrigerator by superheat. Correct or wrong? Alex Garcia. No. Refrigeration with a receiver, we charge by a clear sight glass, and then we adjust the expansion valve superheat to operate at maximum efficiency. But we do not charge by superheat or subcooling on a refrigeration system that has an expansion valve and a receiver. You charge by a clear sight glass, and then you dial in superheat if need be. Comfort cooling without a receiver, like a residential air conditioner, if it has an expansion valve, you charge by superheat. I'm sorry, by subcooling. And if it has a fixed orifice metering device or a piston, you charge by target superheat. Both of those systems, refrigeration or air conditioning, you have to have proper airflow going to your equipment. A lot of people ignore the airflow thing. Airflow is the number one issue, guys. You've got to have proper airflow. If you have an iced up evaporator coil, you don't have proper airflow. If you have a dirty blower wheel, you don't have proper airflow. So charging the system is stupid and pointless. Fix the airflow problem, then charge the system. All right. Let me see what else. All right. I'm going to get to my list here. Okay, so George had asked me about the HVACR trade. He asked me, what's the pay like? How long of an apprenticeship? And how much time is it going to take for an apprenticeship to be over, etc. He's just asking general questions about getting into HVACR. So first and foremost, I'm an advocate for the HVACR industry. We need the help. Anybody that wants to get into HVACR, do it. If you're younger, it's better. If you're older, it's fine. We need your help either way, okay? The HVACR trade has so many different dynamics to it and so many different little sub trades, okay? You've got restaurant refrigeration, you've got supermarket refrigeration, you've got industrial refrigeration. Industrial, you're going to be working with ammonia. Restaurant refrigeration, you're working with the stuff that I do in all my videos. Supermarkets, you're working with giant rack systems with multiple parallel compressors. Crazy hours in supermarket, crazy hours in refrigeration. Industrial, kind of crazy hours. Residential, depends. Are you a salesman or an installer? I mean, there's so many different aspects to it. So as far as what are the hours like, it really can change. What is the pay like? It's hard to say. It changes from location to location. Different trades pay different. But I can guarantee that if you're working in the refrigeration and air conditioning trade, you're going to be from lower middle class up, okay? You're going to have to bust your ass. You're going to have to work hard, okay? But there's going to be a good payout in the end, okay? So it is a great trade. I highly recommend it. As far as how long is the apprenticeship, it really depends on your skills and the type of the sector of the industry you're getting into. Are you going to work for a union company, a non-union? There's so many. That's such a loaded question, okay? So if I didn't answer your question enough, send me an email, George, to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. All right. How difficult is going into tight spaces and walk-in freezers? So walk-in freezers, I'm oftentimes laying up on a shelf in a tight little place with my face in an electrical panel that's this far away. That's totally not safe. You just got to do what you got to do. So is it difficult? Yes, it is difficult. I'm going to say, and I get some pushback from this, but I'm going to say this. If you're a 350-pound guy, you're going to have a little bit more difficulty versus a 200-pound guy. Even I have difficulty. I weigh 200 pounds, and I'm a little bit big to be getting in some of these little shelves that I get in or laying on and stuff like that. So, you know, the smaller you are, the better. But then again, the smaller you are, the harder it is to lift stuff. So you can certainly do this trade, but you just got to be careful, okay? Refrigeration is tricky sometimes, especially in the restaurants. You're oftentimes working on tiny little refrigerators, and then you go in a walk-in cooler, and you're laying on a shelf, and, you know, that kind of stuff. All right. Let me see what else we're missing in here. Do I feel that working this trade has taken a major toll on my body? Not so much. Not so much. I will say that my hearing has been getting worse, and I attribute a lot of that to me not using proper hearing protection in certain situations. I used to that particular stainless steel shop that I work in all the time. I used to go in there and I'd work for days in a stainless steel box while they're in there grinding and cutting things, and it just never bothered me. But I can't hear as well, and I attribute my hearing loss to some of that stuff. As far as my body hurting, my knees hurting. No, I really haven't hit that point, but I'm also somewhat active. I'm not as active as I should be, but I am somewhat active and I'm somewhat in shape, kind of. I mean, for a 200-pound guy, that's 5'9", and, a little bit overweight, but, maybe a lot overweight, but, All right, let's see what else we got in here. Sorry if I'm not getting to your guys' question, okay? So, again, keep reposting them or send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. LM Sylvia, you said that's why you chose to work in the biggest stuff you can. Yeah, that makes sense, man. I work in some of the small stuff, so I'm working on a reach-in cooler, a walk-in, an air conditioner, different things like that. So, at $25 an hour wage, I'd be... that is absolutely true, T Lech. In San Francisco, at $25 an hour, you are broke, okay? Yeah, absolutely. San Francisco has a ridiculously expensive cost of living there. Ridiculously expensive. Stupid expensive. What happened to the R290 I put R134A in it? Adam, that refrigerator is sitting in my house. I fixed it up, put R290 back into it, put a Ketatherm evap efficiency controller on it, and put it in my garage, and it's my beer cooler in my garage now. Holds all my... It's a double-door refrigerator. It's huge in my garage, but it stores everything. My wife was so happy about that. Would I consider teaching at a local college or trade school? Yes, I would, but the difficult thing about colleges or trade schools, I was approached by a local community college, of which I know the director of, very much so. And I was told that I could not be an instructor unless I had an AA degree, which kind of pissed me off because it's just kind of that point. Like, I know that I could teach in a trade school, but I'm being held back because I don't have a stupid college degree. Like, I know in the beginning of the stream, I was saying how I kind of wished I would have had one, but it just kind of pissed me off. But the biggest thing that frustrates me about teaching in general is they don't pay enough. As a teacher, you're going to make ridiculously low amount of money. And the service technicians that you're training in a local community college or a trade school are going to be making more money than you within a year and continue to make more money. Service technicians. So at a local community college, you're going to make 50, 60 grand, maybe that. Okay. Maybe probably closer to 50 grand as a teacher. If you are a service technician in Southern California, you're making almost 100 grand, 80 grand, somewhere in there as a service technician that knows their stuff. So that's kind of frustrating, that the pay is not there. And the fact that they want you to have these fancy college degrees, not that just pisses me off. So, what am I sipping on today? I am drinking, Golden Road Brewing. Get Off of That Brown is what I'm drinking. So good stuff. I'm a brown ale kind of a fan. For those of you that aren't old enough, make sure you stick to apple juice. How to chill water on a swamp cooler. You can run it through the walk-in cooler. That's an old school method. We would do in the deserts. I wouldn't do. I've seen done in the deserts where they would have swamp coolers that were cooling buildings, and they don't have air conditioning systems. So what they would actually do is they would run the water line down into the walk-in cooler, and they'd have a giant service loop on the wall of the walk-in cooler, and then it would leave the walk-in cooler insulated going back up to the swamp cooler, and then it would be blasted into the kitchen, as evaporative cooled air. So that's one way. I've also seen people do that on ice machines that operate in really high ambient kitchens where they didn't operate very well. They would take the water lines and run them through the walk-in cooler, cool them down, then run them back to the ice machine. Because if you work in some of the desert communities, your water temperature can be in excess of 80, 90, 100 degrees groundwater coming up. So it's just insane. What advice would I give a tech who's thinking about switching from MVAC to HVACR, currently EPA 609, reading up on the 608? It's a great, do it. Come on over here, okay? So HVAC is a great trade. You just got to study up, especially if you're taking the 608. Just study up on the dates. Pay attention to that. But I'm going to be honest with you right now. Most of the information in the 608 test, you're going to throw out the door once you pass it. Especially when I took the test, at least, unless it's changed since I took the test in the early 2000s. It was just stupid dates that you'll never need to know again. But we definitely need more people in this trade. So send me an email if I didn't really answer too much about that, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Okay, apple juice. Yeah, exactly. So no piss beer. No, sir. I don't drink none of that piss beer stuff. So my stuff's got flavor that tastes better when it gets warm, for sure. So this stuff right here, when it gets to 50 degrees, it tastes so much better. Very much better. All right. What else? Yeah, so it really depends. Mr. Green says in Houston, $25 an hour is decent. Yeah. In Southern California, a journeyman technician is going to make $35-ish, if not more. In the restaurant trade, you're going to make $35-ish an hour for a journeyman technician. That really knows his stuff, that can self-perform and do everything on his own. He's going to make at least $35 an hour, if not more. So, you know, it really depends. Different parts of the country. So really changes. All right, let's see what else. Yeah, do me a favor, guys. Give the channel a thumbs up. It really does help the channel, okay? Looks like we currently right now have 373 people in here, and we have 227 likes. So do me a favor and smash that. Let's get that closer to 300. I'd really appreciate it, okay? No PBR. No, sir. No, sir. This beer does not need a lime to make it taste good. Although I will say that I do like Corona with tacos, but it has to have a lime. So Pacifico, I don't like with a lime, but. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. Is CO2 still used as a refrigerant? Yeah, for sure. They're using it in the supermarket sector like crazy right now. So airflow is key. That is absolutely correct. Airflow means everything when it comes to refrigeration or air conditioning. What is gasoline in California right now? Honestly, it's been a while since I've paid attention to the gas prices. I want to say that it's just under $4 a gallon, but I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I've actually looked at the price. I'm a very bad person when it comes to certain prices. Like for instance, gas. Okay. It's not that I feel like I can afford anything. No. It's that I have no choice in the matter of fuel. Okay. So, I will look at the price and then I forget it. And it's just like, it is what it is. Blaze Eisner, you said you started off at $7.50 per hour in 1983 and ended at $51 per hour when you retired in 2019. You were union, 2 pensions, and I'm sitting here watching YouTube. Hey, good for you, Blaze. I was telling my wife the other day that she needs to get a job where she gets a pension, because we need a pension for sure. So I started in my trade in junior high school working for my dad for $25 a day. $25 a day is what I would make for working a full day with him, doing rooftop preventative maintenances, changing filters, changing belts, and changing swamp cooler pads and stuff like that here in Southern California. I'm sure there was some labor laws violated, and I do pretty well for myself. There's a lot of stress involved in it though. But yeah, I still laugh about making $25 a day. That was super cool too, because at the end of the summer I had a couple $100, and I was super stoked. So. If I'm watching from a phone, briefly to hit the thumbs up button. Yeah, you just got to close the chat for a minute. All right. So in some of my videos, I will replace parts preemptively. So it really depends on the location that I'm in. So I have this on my list to talk about. So for instance, when I work out in the desert, I do a little bit of workout in the Palm Springs area, or the Coachella Valley, okay? In the Coachella Valley, they have, I'd say, 4 months of above 100-degree temperatures and for about 4 months straight. It's pretty hot out there. And even in the evening when the sun goes down, it's still 95 degrees outside. It's ridiculously stupid. With that being said, the equipment doesn't last as long. So when I get a service call out there, that's majority of the time where you'll see preemptive parts repair or replacement. I'll go out there and find out that one of the 2 condenser fan motors is bad for a walk-in freezer. I change them both, okay? Because I know that we lose a condenser fan motor every year on that particular piece of equipment. It's not that I'm trying to be a ripoff to my customer. I'm actually doing them a service because they'd pay me, that customer's paying me an hour and a half travel time just to get to the location. Then they're paying me 2 to 3 hours on site time every single service call. So if I'm out there changing a condenser fan motor, that costs them $70, okay? My labor costs are way through the roof just to drive back out there. So I'm going to go to them and say, hey, look, we've got one bad fan motor. I highly suggest changing them both. They say, do it. Okay. So I will preemptively change parts in that situation. Yes, the second motor wasn't bad. It was still working, but from experience and knowing how the equipment operates, I'm doing them a service by changing them both, and I'm keeping the customer in the loop the entire time. Everything I do, I am talking through with the customer and making sure that they're okay with. They understand everything. In fact, out in the Coachella Valley, I have a location that we've got an air conditioner, and this is how it works. Even the customer knows it. They've got an air conditioner that has an evaporator leak. It's a York Predator unit. It's got an evaporator leak on it. I gave them a quote. I said, look, I don't suggest repairing this equipment. Okay. Mind you, they're going to replace it and buy the new air conditioner themselves. But I give them a quote to sell them the evaporator. And I said, I highly suggest you don't repair it. I said, I suggest you replace it. They said, okay. So, but they came to me and they said, you know what? We're replacing one air conditioner. Let's change the other kitchen AC too, because you're going to be out there and it's going to save us a lot of labor costs. They realize that I'm going to be on site anyways, and the cost to get a crane out there and all that crap and all the labor it cost me to drive there, they figure, let's just change both of our kitchen ACs, even though the other one's working just fine. Okay. So customers understand it too. So I'm not trying to rip the customer off. Anybody that works for me can tell you, I'm more concerned about the customer than I am about making profits. Okay. I want the customer to be happy because I want them to keep calling me every single week. Okay. Return business is how I survive. All right. How many three-phase motors still use run caps? Why do many three-phase motors do not use run caps? Three-phase motors don't have them. I may have three-phase equipment that has single-phase motors on it, but they don't use run caps. Let me see what else. What is the dirtiest condenser I've had to clean? I don't know. That's kind of a loaded question. Don't I wish I was back in Missouri? You know, I wish I was back. So I'm from Missouri, right? I was born in Missouri, but I moved to California when I was 3 years old, but I visited many times. I'm a country boy. I would thrive in the country. My wife and my daughters would not thrive in the country. So I would be fine living in the sticks, living in the middle of nowhere. I would be good with it. I would be fine not having neighbors. I'd be good. But my family would not. My family is Southern California beach girls. I have 2 daughters and my wife. They're all beach girls. They're all blonde. They all want to be by the ocean. They don't want to live in the country. They just wouldn't survive. So I'm stuck in California for the rest of my life, guys. For mainly residential, what do I suggest? Torches, oxyacetylene, or B-tank? I'm an oxyacetylene fan when it comes to everything. So I've never used a B-tank. I don't like the sound. It annoys the hell out of me. I like torches. All right. Missouri gang. Yep. All right. Mac had asked me why so many economizers are not working in my videos. Great question. I'm going to tell you this right now. Economizers are required by the state of California to be installed on anything over 2,000 CFMs of airflow. Basically, 5 tons or bigger, you have to have an economizer via Title 24 requirements. Title 24 is our energy code. Here's the problem. The customers do not see the return on investment with an economizer. The theory is there, okay? Use outdoor air to cool the building when it's lower outside temperature than it is inside the building. Great theory and good humidity. We don't have humidity in California, so humidity is not really a factor. So we have 55-degree outdoor air in the wintertime, and they've got a full building full of people, and they want to maintain 75 degrees. It would be pretty smart to open up outside air dampers and bring outside air into the building, assuming that they have proper air balance and, you know, they'd have free cooling. They wouldn't be paying for electricity to mechanically cool that building. The problem is the failure rate on economizers is so high that the return on investment is not there. The energy savings is not realized because they have to spend so much money maintaining said piece of equipment. So most customers do not see the return on investment, therefore they don't want to fix economizers. It's pretty simple as that. All right. Let's see what else. Does a deteriorated evaporator coil occur from age? A deteriorated evaporator coil occurs from contaminants in the air. So over a long period of time, contaminants in the air will start to deteriorate an evaporator coil. But is it caused just from age? No, it's caused from airborne contaminants in the air deteriorating that. So let's just say you have a perfectly clean air and you have an evaporator coil that's been in there for 30 years, okay? It's fine. It's not going to deteriorate just on its age. It's going to deteriorate based on impurities or chemicals or whatever, VOCs in the air that's going to come across and start to eat away at that coil. So it's not an age thing. It's more of a building contaminant thing. Yeah, stay in California. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. When will we get a Discord? NACA Fire and Safety. You know, I've had a Discord before. It was kind of a pain in my butt. Maybe someday, but not right now. I actually have a Discord all set up by my buddy Ike, but it's just not anything that I'm ready to make public. So it's just so much of a headache for me. Does low voltage control circuits power smoke alarms on package units? The majority of the time on package units, smoke alarms are powered via the 24-volt transformer in the package unit itself. Now, occasionally, duct detectors can be powered via 120-volt power and or the alarm panel's power. But majority of the time in my area, duct detectors are powered via the 24-volt control voltage in the air conditioning unit itself, which can also cause some issues when it comes to the supervisory circuits, because if you power down the disconnect, the power to the duct detector disappears and the supervisory circuit goes away and it creates a trouble alarm. So it does create some problems. All right. Okay. At this point right now, the technical portion of the live stream is over. Let's stop talking shop and let's talk in general, guys. How are you guys doing with all this craziness going on right now? I have to say that I was pretty disappointed when I talked to a family member of mine. I'm not going to say who, but I talked to a family member of mine. I was not disappointed in the fact that she went to protest, because I believe in protest, and protest is a great thing. And, you know, it can change. Protest can change things. But she was sharing her sentiment on violent protests and how violent protests are acceptable to her. And that frustrated me. I don't believe in violence when it comes to anything. I don't believe that violence is a good way to get a message across to anybody. So how do you guys feel about that in the chat? I mean, are you guys, and I'm not judging anybody. Everybody has their opinion, but I was disappointed to find out that this person believed in violent protests. It was okay. Basically, the logic was, this person that I was talking to's logic was, they're killing these people, so it's okay for us to hurt them. And I don't believe in that logic. I do believe in protest. Again, I'm not trying to differentiate. I understand people protesting and different things, but I do not believe in violence as a form of protest. So what do you guys think in the chat? Yeah, work is definitely getting better. I'm super happy that work is starting to pick up. I'm happy about that. Yes, that is absolute. That's my feeling too, Jason and Orst. You're saying violent protest is not protest, it's violence. That is absolutely true. And I will be fair and say that I firmly believe that the majority of the violent protesters are not actually part of the protest. And I think that they're another group that's trying to take advantage of the situation. So, commie protests, yeah. Why haven't you made... Oh, no. It's very hot here in Texas. Wish you had humidity. Yeah, we don't have humidity. I think it's like 30% humidity in California today. So in my area. Yeah, the media is definitely hurting everything when it comes to the protests and different things like that. Good point, Dr. Octagon. It's funny. Dr. Octagon says you don't have time to think about the protests. And that's a good point, because, you know, we're still busy working. And that's true. You know, this particular person, that my family member that texted me, they sent me a bunch of videos and I haven't even had a chance to watch them because I've been so busy with work. You know, it's interesting because I don't have time to protest because I'm out working. So, but again, I'm not saying that protesting is bad. I just think that violent protesting is bad. You don't think violent protests are necessary, morally correct, but our history shows peaceful protest has accomplished little. But Joshua Jones, I was having a conversation with my wife today. And again, I'm not a genius when it comes to anything, but I will say that I do believe, personal opinion, that the police officer in the situation, with what we've seen and what we know, we haven't seen the body cam footage or anything, but what we've seen, I think it was a little bit ridiculous what the police officer did to that person. Okay. Granted, the person was a criminal and they had a violent history, but it still doesn't condone anything. But we don't know all the details as the public because the media only shows us so much. But I think I'm kind of frustrated because in general, we as public tend to forget things. So let's just say, for instance, 5 years ago, we had an issue where there was protest, but then people tend to forget about it and they don't continue to protest. See, we have the ability to change things in our country. We can change whatever we want. If you stand up for what you believe in and you don't stop shouting about it, eventually you can invoke change if enough of you stand up together. But if we stand up and shout about it for 2 months and then stop shouting about it, what change is going to happen? So I tend to think people jump on the bandwagon and say, oh yeah, we're helping to support the cause and da 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 da. But then most of those people are going to tail off and stop protesting pretty soon. So I think that we can change more things if you continue at it and continue to try to change things. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Yeah, looting, no. Yeah, exactly. All right. Return violence is not in my path. I believe in peaceful protest. Exactly, Ray Ray. I believe in peaceful protest too. You have many law enforcement officer friends and family, but you do believe some cross the line. That is very true. There is good people and then there's bad people, but I don't think it's fair to say all law enforcement are bad because it's just the same as the racism of saying that all one nationality is bad or color of skin or whatever, insert name here, is bad, because no, not everybody is bad. We are all people, in my opinion, and lumping all law enforcement officers together isn't fair because there's a small percentage, and I do agree that there's a small percentage that are bad, but there's a large percentage that are there to help people. So that's my personal opinion on the matter. Martin Luther King would not condone the looting and destruction. No, I don't think he would. Yeah, I'm bummed out about that one. Once sports back on, everything will chill. Lawn Moose, thank you very much for that super chat, man. That is really awesome. I really appreciate that. Let me see what else we got going on in here. If we all install Goodmans for the next 3 months, it would bring Americans' economy back up for the next 5 years. That's funny. That's pretty funny, T-Lech. Officers need more training in close combat. Yeah. You know, I'm not a genius in the matter, but I do believe that officers, police officers in general, probably need to go through the background checks that a federal officer does, and constant. And I think we need to have some more counseling and different things like that to make sure people are in the right state of mind. I think that's an important thing. I remember when my brother went into the federal, he had a federal background check done, and they questioned all of our neighbors. They asked family members. They really went into his history. And it's like, I really think law enforcement needs to do a better job of doing that. And then also making sure that people go through, you know, training and different things like that to eliminate stuff. Yeah, I think that's an important thing. I do not have the solutions whatsoever, but and I'm not 100% on one side or the other. I see everybody's perspective, and I'm just somewhere in the middle and understand a little bit of everything. We do forget and don't keep the pressure. Yeah, I think Joshua Jones, your point is kind of true, that if you, no matter what your thing is, whatever you're protesting, I don't agree in violence, but don't forget it and keep the pressure on, similar to what you said. Yeah. Because, you know, I find that people, you know, they protest for something, but then they forget and they go back to normal life and they stop protesting. If you really want that change, you have the ability, all of us have the ability to change anything we want in the United States of America. We really do. With enough people standing up and saying they want change with peaceful protest, you can change the politicians, you can change the elected officials, you can change the rhetoric, you can change the way that we do things if enough of us stand up and do that. Molly, we're not talking about HVAC anymore. This is more the after show. Is this the longest live stream yet? No, I don't know. Maybe. Big picture politics. I'm not a politician. No. This isn't politics. This is opinion. This is big picture opinion. Communication is the biggest thing. Communication and yeah, that's a very important thing. People only want to change what's fashionable. That's very true, Fluke196. That is a great thing. Am I a Cardinals fan? No. I mean, I'm from Missouri, but no, I'm not a sports fan in general. I don't really pay attention to any sports. So, very true. Oh, that's funny. All right, everybody. I really, really appreciate you guys coming to the stream. This is going to be it. I'm going to go ahead and end it. There's not an after show. Thank you guys so very much. I really, really appreciate it. All the new viewers and subscribers, thank you guys so very much. It's been awesome. I'll keep the videos coming. I'm going to go ahead and transition to the outro, and we will catch you guys on the next one. If y'all could do one thing, if y'all could take one thing from my videos or my live streams, please stop, take a second, take a step back, and look at the big picture. I'm not coming back. I really, really am not coming back. I'm not back. Okay? I'm really going to end this for real. Maybe I'll put the other outro music just to annoy you guys. There you go. Anybody recognize this song? It's like a backward pumped up kicks is what it is. Listen to it. It's like pumped up kicks but backwards. That's why I liked it. Nobody ever got that. Nobody ever realized that this is like pumped up kicks. Pretty cool, right? All right, I'm gonna transition back to the stupid thing so I can close out my computer and all that crap. If I can figure it out. There we go. You're like waiting for the song to come in, right? Thanks, Dr. Octagon, for that super chat. That's awesome, bud. Really appreciate it. I'm back because Justin said I was coming back. Uh-oh. I do have another beer. Let's see how many people I could lose and how many people I could bring back. I got nothing to talk about. I'm absolutely nothing to talk about, but I got a whole glass of a beer to drink here, and I figured, what the heck? I got nothing else going on. This one though, look at Rogue Hazelnut Brown. Guys, if you haven't already, you gotta, if you're 21 or older, you gotta try Rogue Hazelnut Brown. You gotta be a brown ale fan though, but that is key right there, man. Really, really key. All right. What up? Whoa, whoa. See, wow. That is strong. Oh, Fluke 196. I'm really here, man. Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate that, bud. I'm back. Dang. See, going from this other brown ale to this is super like chocolatey and coffee. This is like a coffee beer. Absolutely amazing. I need to go eat dinner, but yeah, that's awesome. I'll hang out for a few more minutes. I got to finish this. So what else do we got to talk about, guys? What else we got going on? Rogue is good. Fluke 196. Rogue is my favorite. Rogue Hazelnut Brown. That is my jam right there. Absolutely my jam. Oh, right on, bud. Yeah, you got to like a brown ale though, and you got to like a coffee ale, but Rogue, man, you let it sit, get it to about 45, 50 degrees. Whew, the flavors come out so much. Amazing. Have I tried coffee Kolsch? I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't think I have. My wife gave me a coffee one the other day. I'm trying to remember who makes it though. Who makes the coffee one? I'll think of it in a minute. My wife gave me one. Modern Times. Modern Times. It's like a coffee something or other. Excuse me, stout or something. Excuse me, I burped right there. But it's like a coffee stout, Modern Times. That is a good one too. But you can't sit down and have 3 of those at the end of the evening because it actually has caffeine in it. So you got to be careful about that. Ooh, I want to go to Ireland, Molly. That sounds really cool. Yeah, I need to eat dinner after this too. I cooked my dinner in my car, plugged a little portable cook. That's why dinner is late. That's right. Favorite work truck, just incredible. I actually used to have a Chevy 2500 extended cab with a service body on the back. That was actually my favorite truck to drive. The only problem was that I only had the 6-liter in it, and the big bed that I had on it was way too heavy. I think the truck weighed 10,000 pounds standing. It was ridiculously heavy. So it was like that 6-liter that it had in it was like absolutely gutless when you were driving it. But it was an amazing work truck. The cool thing about driving a truck versus a van is it's so much quieter. You don't hear the service body. But the downside to driving a truck is like your refrigerant cylinders. I had a roll top on the bed, so like everything was protected, but it just sucked because it was all back there and you had to dive into the back to go get refrigerant cylinders and different things like that. But Chris Emery, it's all good, man. You don't need to drink. You know, I don't drink that much, to be honest with you. So no Coke nose today. That's right, Molly. Peach schnapps. It must be like a stress thing or something, the whole Coke nose. Little single body axle truck with the utility body doors. Yeah, no, mine was a single axle. It wasn't a dually, but it just had a 6-liter. It was a 2500, but it was gutless. It really needed more power. But it was an awesome truck. It had locks on the utility body and stuff, had padlocks. It was awesome. It was a good truck. I kind of regret getting rid of that. Do I watch Rocket Kit channel? I don't know that I've ever seen that, LM Sylvia, but I'm going to write that down. So Rocket, and I'll look that channel up. Kit channel, for sure. I'm surprised. We still have a lot of people in here. You guys are watching me just ramble on. Like, what the heck? Ford or Chevy? You know, my wife and I's favorite car that we ever had was our Ford Flex. We had a 2010 Ford Flex. Absolute favorite car ever. We sold it and bought a Honda Pilot. I like the Honda because it's very reliable and it holds its value, but it just didn't replace the Flex. The Flex was our favorite car. but my truck is a Chevy Silverado. I have my personal truck is a Chevy Silverado, and I love that truck. So I'm not either way. I'd love my wife to drive a Suburban, but she doesn't want to. She wants the smaller midsize, so she drives the Honda Pilot. So, what else? What am I binge watching these days? Adam, lately I've been watching the Alien franchise. So I started with Prometheus, and then I watched Alien Covenant, and then I'm on Alien 1 right now, and then I'm working my way through. So those are the movies that I've been watching. Yeah, I like to jump onto series. 2 weeks ago I watched the Back to the Future franchise. Watch those ones. Those are great movies. Just those movies still hold up to this day, guys. If you haven't gone back and watched the Back to the Future movies, go and watch those. Those movies are just they did such a great job. Those are probably one of the best made movie franchises ever. I would even argue I really like the Star Wars franchise, but as the whole franchise, looking at everything, I think the Back to the Future franchise is one of the best. The other franchise that I really like is the Hunger Games series. But I will say, Hunger Games, I actually read those books because I like to read some books. I haven't done any book reading lately, but the Hunger Games books were amazing. And the movies sucked. Like most books. If you ever read a book, majority of the time, if it's ever made into a movie, they cut out all the good stuff. The Hunger Games movies, they definitely cut out the good stuff from the books, but the Hunger Games franchise in general is a great movie series. Definitely, if you haven't already, go watch those. Do it. But the Hunger Games, the Back to the Future, I'm watching the Alien franchise right now. Pretty good. So watching the Alien franchise, watching Prometheus, which is the prequel, right? And then Alien Covenant is the prequel. And then Alien is the third movie, technically. It's very interesting. It's kind of hard, too, because watching the technology in the Alien movie, which is supposed to be after the first two, you're like, wait, they just went to tube TVs and incandescent bulbs and and the lights and everything. You're like, what happened to all the LEDs and all the fancy stuff? Yeah, I don't walk into the back of my truck. So let's cause a war. Die Hard is a Christmas film. What's my opinion? Yeah, I'd say Die Hard is a Christmas film. I'd argue that Die Hard is a holiday film for sure. But they are great movies, but definitely a Christmas film. I'm going to argue that one. Lethal Weapon, that's a franchise I need to jump on. It's been a good 20 years since I've watched the Lethal Weapon movies, so I will have to do that. Definitely have to do that one. I'm going to write that down, actually. We don't need roads. That's right. Let's see what else. 007. Yeah, see, I grew up on the 007 movies, but I don't know. I just never got into them. I mean, as a young kid, GoldenEye, 007, yeah, that was what, 1994, 95, I'm guessing, is about the right time. That was a pretty popular movie, and then the video game on Super Nintendo, 007, GoldenEye. But I don't know. Pierce Brosnan, not my favorite. If I had to guess who my favorite Bond person was, it'd be a tie. I don't know. Who would be my favorite Bond person? Who's your guys' favorite Bond actor? Daniel Craig did a pretty good job, but he definitely changed the dynamic of the Bond films. He was more action-packed, Sean Connery, I'd say maybe Sean Connery was my favorite Bond actor, I think. Marshals, yeah. So there's the franchise, the Marshals. You're talking about with why can't I think of his name? There's like two movies, the Marshals. Let me look it up. I can't think of who. I'm trying to think of the name right now. Oh wait, you're thinking of something different. Are you thinking U.S. Marshals? I was thinking U.S. Marshals with Tommy Lee Jones. And then there's another movie too. That was kind of like a sister movie of that, but I don't know what Marshals is. Yeah, see, I'm kind of thinking Sean Connery might have been my favorite. Yeah. Oh, you're right. In Nintendo 64. You are right, Big Nate. My bad, dude. You are absolutely right. Let's see. Have I ever seen The Seven Faces of Dr. Lau? No, I don't know that I have, Hamilton Mechanical. I will have to look that up. So, I don't know that I've ever seen that. Oh yeah, U.S. Marshals. Yeah, yeah, I've seen U.S. Marshals. That's a great movie. Now there's a sister movie to that. What is the sister movie to U.S. Marshals? U.S. Marshals. Is it Fugitive? I think Fugitive is like a cousin to the U.S. Marshals, isn't it? For some reason, I think it is. I think the Fugitive is like, yeah, the Fugitive. Yeah. So, yeah, it says the 1993 film The Fugitive, the storyline of the U.S. Marshals. Yeah, so U.S. Marshals and The Fugitive are very similar. And then The Fugitive was Harrison Ford. It was the one-armed man killed my wife or something like that, right? Lonesome Dove, that was good. That was a TV miniseries, right? Lonesome Dove. You love the movie From Dusk Till Dawn. Dusk Till Dawn's good, but I like Western movies more than Dusk Till Dawn. Dusk Till Dawn was a bit much. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, that's a good Western film for sure. I've said this many times, but The Ecstasy of Gold is my all-time one wish that I could have for my live streams. If I could have The Ecstasy of Gold as my intro song for my live streams, that would be the ultimate intro song, which is the exit song for for that movie. So The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But Ecstasy of Gold by Anicio Marcoloni Macaroni, whatever his name is. But Maverick, I think I've seen Maverick, but I don't think I was amazed with it. Watching Heat, that's another good one. Yeah, for sure. What else? How does the sight glass work? Anderson, we're actually at the point right now where I'm not talking about HVAC anymore. So send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Best movie, The Birdcage. Second place, Tombstone. Okay, what the hell? The Birdcage? The weird-ass movie with frickin' Rosie O'Donnell where she was like a weird-ass... no, not Birdcage, man. Tombstone, though, I agree with that one. Birdcage, I'm going to have to go rewatch that because the fact that you said that was the best movie, I'm going to have to rewatch it. Either you're trolling me really hard or I missed something a lot. But I'll have to watch that because probably haven't seen that movie since I was 12 years old. So, any which way it can. Tombstone's your favorite Western? Yeah. Is many businesses open in my area? Yeah, restaurants are all opening back up. The bars haven't been given the go-ahead yet, but they're just about to open up the bars. So that's the next thing. Yeah, they can, Ike. Ecstasy of Gold, they'll demonetize. Although I don't make any money off these live streams anyways, so I should just play it. Best toilet paper, Costco, whatever Costco sells. That's all I like. So, good day, sir. Right on, Edward, and see you later, bud. Why do we still have so many people in here, guys? What the hell are you guys still doing in here? There's still too many people for me just rambling about nothing. Goonies, that's a good one. That is a good movie. Absolutely great movie. Yeah, Goonies is a great one for sure. You're trying to pronounce Neo Morricone? Yeah, I don't even know how you pronounce that dude's name. Best movie of all time, The Trial of Billy Jack. Okay, so let's go to another movie franchise is Young Guns. Young Guns and Young Guns 2. Guys, that is a great movie franchise that I highly, highly suggest that you guys check out. Young Guns and Young Guns 2, for sure. Great, great movie. Yeah, people just want someone to listen to, Fluke196. You guys just want to hear me talking about movies and my favorite movies and how I'm watching the Alien franchise. He-Man, Masters of the Universe. I have the power. I have too much weird-ass random movie crap in my head. My wife, goes nuts when I, say stupid movie trivia or whatever. I didn't even realize. Did anybody get the movie quote from the movie today? I was curious if anybody got the movie quote or the song. Both of them were actually, the song quote and the movie quote were from the same movie. So I was curious if anybody would get that. Yeah, work is quiet right now, Scott, huh? Oh, right on. Oh, no, I'm not doing an all-nighter stream because I got to piss really bad. Oh, yeah, there's the movie right there. All good things to those who wait. I was curious if anybody got it. Yeah, it is Ennio Morricone. Yeah. October Sky. No, the movie is not October Sky. Well, I'm saying the movie that I had the movie quotes in. The movie quote and the song were from the same movie, actually. So the movie quote, there's a couple of them. The first movie quote, I'll pull it up right now. Let me see if I can pull this up. So the first movie quote was, all good things... Oh, the quote was, Plum Island Animal Disease Research Facility. Sounds charming. This is actually a little bit more difficult. I've done this movie before. And then all good things to those who wait. And then the easiest one, this one should give everybody the movie, is have the lamb stop screaming yet? And I left out the important part when he says, Clarice, have the lamb stopped screaming yet? Now the song quote was, she couldn't help but thinking that there was a little bit more to life. And then somewhere else. And then like waves crashing on the beach. And for one desperate moment there. That's the song. Nope, not Stand By Me. Nope. So the Lizaraga Edgar, you ask about Amazon. Yeah, I did used to have Amazon affiliate links. I really don't push the Amazon affiliate links anymore. Just send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com and I can give you more information on that. Yeah, exactly, Joe. You and my wife are on the same page. Scott Dickinson, Clarice. Yes. Hello, Clarice. Fava beans. I ate his brains with some Chianti. Silence of the Lambs. That is right. Hannibal Lecter. Okay, guys. I did not say it, but I need to say it. The Hannibal Lecter movies have to be the greatest movie franchise ever. Guys, I love the Silence of the Lambs films. So the song was American Girl by Tom Petty. So the start of Silence of the Lambs is it's like the senator's daughter or something like that, and she's driving in her little I think it's like a Toyota pickup truck, and she's just rocking out to American Girl, singing Tom Petty American Girl. And then that's when Buffalo Bill abducts her and then locks her in the cellar, and then she's in like the hole in the ground, and that she lures the dog into the hole. And that movie's the whole franchise though. If you there's the one movie, what's it called? It's the one about Hannibal Lecter, and basically explains everything. It starts out from when he was a kid in Poland or something like that, and then his family was killed and he had to raise his sister, and then he had to the soldiers that came and lived in his house or whatever made him eat his sister, and it doesn't make you sympathize with the fact that he's a cannibal, but it makes you understand his logic as to why he became a cannibal, and what his whole thing started with the soldiers fed his sister to him and he didn't know it, and he found out after the fact and they told him after, and then he went and hunted down every one of those soldiers and killed them. And then it never stopped after that. And then his obsession started, and it was just a mental disorder. And is Hannibal Rising is the name of that movie. Wow, that movie just explained the whole Silence of the Lambs movie. So Hannibal Rising, and then you've got I think it's Manhunter or Manhunter, I think. And then Silence of the Lambs, and yeah, all those different ones. Those are great movies. Amazing. What am I? Yeah, exactly. Was it a great big fat girl? Oh, wait, was she a great big fat girl? Yeah, exactly. You need to revisit Lecter. You guys definitely need to revisit the Hannibal Lecter films, because those ones are good. Just the cool thing is that they're not horror movies. They're psychological thrillers. They mess with your mind. They are great. So, ooh, Napster and burning CDs. Yeah, Napster for sure. I had so many different. I probably still have CDs with a bunch of MP3s on them from Napster. So Red Dragon was a good one. Depends on which version though, right? Because wasn't there 2 versions of Red Dragon? I think there was. Yeah. All right, guys. I'm going to embarrass myself in a minute, so I'm really going to close this out. I really, really appreciate you guys, and we will catch you guys on the next one. I can't come back again, LM Sylvia. Yeah, I gotta go eat dinner. You guys are stealing my time. I got family. Come on, you guys need to go home. You guys need to go find something else to do rather than just watch some idiot ramble. Although I still do have a bunch of this left. Random. Yeah. I'm out. For real. Really appreciate it. But I'm going away for real. Thank you so very much. Catch you on the flip side. See you on Friday on the Overtime Show.